I am the villain's white moonlight wife who died young. On the 10th year after death, I was revived by the system. It wants me to redeem the now corrupted him, but I've lost all my memories, so when I spotted that villain from afar, before I could even get close, I was immediately driven away by his subordinates. As I was thrown to the ground in disgrace, several lines of bullet comments suddenly appeared before my eyes. Here we go again. I've lost count of how many have come to save the villain by now. For so many years, the system has arranged countless substitute strategists to stabilize the villain, fearing he might destroy this world. Some resembled the villain's deceased wife in appearance, some matched her personality, and there were even those who came fully prepared with all of her memories, but without exception, they all failed. How many days can such an ordinary one like this last? 1. When the system brought me through, the villain who affects the stability of the entire world line, already 34 years old, with a son around 10 years of age, and I awoke from my slumber, know nothing, remember nothing, I only know my name is Sunua, and I'm 23 years old. This was just told to me by the system. Besides that, it repeatedly warned me about how dangerous that villain is. Don't let me be like those past strategists, just entered this world, and already lost my life. The system said that villain is called Qin Jinnan, standing at the pinnacle of wealth and power in this world. He's cruel and ruthless, like a ferocious beast. The only shred of conscience left was probably reserved for his still young son. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, lost in thought. I just whispered softly, I don't think I have anything special that would impress that villain. The system watched me in silence. After a long pause, he said meaningfully, you're the last chance. If even you can't. His words trailed off there. Then he said firmly, no, you must succeed, too. The system's countless warnings weren't wrong, because I had just transmigrated into this world, and had just managed to catch a distant glimpse of Qin Jinnan, was immediately noticed by the several burly black-suited bodyguards following him. Qin Jinnan was dressed entirely in black, with an overcoat draped over his shoulders. He stood at the school gate, waiting for his son to finish classes. He didn't even glance in my direction. I gazed at his sharply chiseled profile, half veiled in coldness. An uncontrollable peculiar emotion sprouted from the depths of my heart. This emotion made one sorrowful to the point of tears. I found myself inexplicably frozen in place, didn't even notice his bodyguard had approached. When thrown heavily against the wall, excruciating pain radiated from every part of my body. His bodyguard had a menacing look. Before leaving, he threw a threat at me. Don't look at people you shouldn't. He gave me a cold glance as I lay in a pathetic heap on the ground. He said, if there's a next time, it won't be this simple. 3. Snow suddenly began to fall from the sky at that moment. I hugged my injured arm and leaned against the corner of the wall. From a distance, Qin Jinnan had already picked up his son. Even after seeing his son, not a trace of a smile appeared on his face. He simply put out the cigarette in his hand, lowered his gaze, and took his son's hand. The two of them turned and got into the car. Perhaps my gaze was too intense. Just before boarding, the boy suddenly turned his head and looked straight at me. I was covered in a mixture of blood and snow. What a sorry sight, yet subconsciously, he still flashed a gentle smile at that exceptionally handsome boy. The boy's gaze was as indifferent as his father's, calmly sizing me up. He only glanced at me once. The bodyguard had already turned sideways to open the car door. The door slowly closed before my eyes as the car drove away without looking back. 4. It felt like my heart suddenly missed a beat. A profound sense of weightlessness washed over me. I haven't had time to ponder the origin of this strange emotion of mine. Suddenly, several lines of white text appeared before my eyes. Those words streamed densely and rapidly across my vision. Yet another new strategist has appeared. Over the past decade, I've lost count of how many dozens or hundreds this makes. The system is truly terrified of the villainous brother, fearing he might destroy the entire world in a fit of displeasure. Hence it tries every possible means to place people by his side, but the villainous brother only loves his deceased wife. Over the years, the system has sent countless replacement strategists to the villain's side. Some resembled the villain's deceased wife in appearance, some matched her personality, and there were even those who came fully prepared with all of her memories. 5. I stared at the barrage of comments flashing rapidly before my eyes. I lightly furrowed my brows, forgetting even to blink. The so-called villain brother they mentioned must be Qin Jinnan, the one threatening the stability of this entire world, and those failed strategists from the past are probably the reason why the system repeatedly warned me about Qin Jinnan's danger. The system likely exhausted all possible methods, so why does he think someone as mediocre as me could complete the mission and keep Qin Jinnan under control? As I thought this, the text before me gradually shifted the topic to me, but to be honest, what's kept the villain brother in check all these years was never some substitute or strategist, it must be the son left to him by his deceased wife. His late wife departed without a trace, leaving only this son behind. This is also the villain's sole remaining connection to the entire world now, otherwise, given the villain's madness in those early years, he might have already destroyed the world and himself, joining his deceased wife in death. That's why every single strategist failed without exception. After all, the deceased wife was the antagonist's white moonlight, she was the only pure land in his heart. The antagonist won't allow anyone to tarnish her by impersonating her face and identity. That's why those imposters died more miserably one after another. What about this one right here? This utterly ordinary, unprepared, completely unremarkable strategist. How many days can she even last? They even started placing bets. I bet on her next meeting with the villain guy, that will be her death day. I'll take that bet, then I'll follow the bet. Someone else sent a laughing emoji. No, she fell pretty hard just now. Heavy snow started falling again. Whether she can survive this ordeal remains unknown. 6. I lowered my eyes, ignoring the dense text mocking me, only staring at my own bloody wounds, but contrary to everyone's expectations, getting involved with Qin Jinnan again. It was actually his son who came looking for me. I don't know how he found me. All I know is, when I opened the door of my cheap motel room this morning, I saw him standing alone at my doorstep with his backpack. Looking at his indifferent face that bore such a striking resemblance to his father's, I gently paused my steps. He slightly raised his head, his gaze fixed straight on my face. Who are you? He asked me in a low voice. How strange. He came to my door, but his first question was asking who I was. My name is Sun Nua. I answered his question earnestly nonetheless. The moment my words fell, his brow furrowed deeply. 7. The white text before his eyes showed no sign of stopping. The moment I finished speaking, they burst into synchronized mockery. Has the system completely given up? Looked for someone with a similar appearance, looked for someone with a similar personality. This is the first time I've so blatantly brought a strategist with the exact same name into the world. The system really isn't afraid of the villain getting angry and throwing a fit. It's practically delivering the strategist right to the antagonist's doorstep, saying, "You want Sun Nua? Well, I brought Sun Nua back to you." Unlike those lively, bustling narratives, the boy before me showed not a trace of a smile on his face. He simply stated calmly, "My name is Sun Yen." As he finished speaking, his gaze fixed more intently on me. It even seemed like he was observing, waiting for my reaction. Sun Nua, Sun Yen, his name is strikingly similar to mine. Combine the content revealed by those white texts. Perhaps, Qin Jinnan's deceased wife was named Sun Nua. 8. But in my mind, there is only blankness. I couldn't give Sun Yen any reaction she desired. His burning gaze fixed on me gradually cooled. Someone came running hurriedly from the direction of the elevator. The middle-aged man in a suit stood half a head taller than Sun Yen, yet he stopped before Sun Yen, bending at the waist with his head lowered, with a sincere tone. "Young master, the car is waiting downstairs, you'll be late for class." Sun Yen gently lowered her dark eyelashes, as if disappointed. Then he turned around neatly and was about to leave, but as he turned, his movements hesitated for a moment, his brows lightly furrowed again. He looked at the glass window across the hallway and said, "You should go get your injuries treated." Following his gaze, I looked at the rough gauze wrapped around my arm and right leg in the mirror. After transmigrating, the system didn't give me any golden fingers. The little money I have left can barely cover food and shelter. There's absolutely no way I can afford hospital treatment. Sun Yen has already left. My gaze swept across the glass window, looking at the blurred reflection of my own face upon it. 9. There's a mottled scar on my right cheek. The system claims I died in a fire 10 years ago. The system's energy is supplied by the world, but the villain Qin Jinnan is vengeful to the extreme. His wife died in an accident linked to the male and female protagonists, without distinguishing right from wrong. He took revenge on everyone involved in that accident, including the male and female protagonists, the chosen ones of Heaven's will, who had already died 5 years ago. After the protagonists' deaths, the world fell into the grasp of the antagonist Qin Jinnan. Even the system itself was barely surviving. Its energy is always insufficient, so it can only restore my body to about 80% of its original state. My body is relatively healthy, But there are still various unhealed burns of different sizes all over my body. I gazed at the unfamiliar face in the mirror. It was truly an ordinary, even ugly face. To choose me as the strategist for such a villain, I could see no hope whatsoever. No wonder those white words were filled with mockery towards me. 10. But whether there's hope or not, I still have to conquer Qin Jin Nan. This is the purpose of the system reviving me. It was also the only way I could keep living, but to conquer Qin Jin Nan, I had to first solve my own imminent survival problem. I tried every means possible at the bookstore downstairs from Qin Jin Nan's company, found a job as a librarian, worked the night shift until midnight. The lights in the building across the street were still blazing. I sat on the steps outside the bookstore, opening a boxed meal that had already gone cold. At 12:07, Qin Jin Nan's black Bentley glided past my eyes. The Bentley's tinted windows blocked all my view. I knew Qin Jin Nan was sitting inside that car, because those white text fragments before my eyes were buzzing with discussion. They seemed to have an extra pair of eyes compared to me, able to see Qin Jin Nan inside through the car window, and use this as an opportunity to direct their sarcastic remarks at me. The system has completely given up, and it seems this lady has too. Other transmigrators who enter this world try every possible way to get close to the villain. Whether to make their presence known or find a breakthrough point, she's doing just fine, even leisurely looking for a job and living her own life. Were you scared by the villain's bodyguards when you first met? So I'm just supposed to watch her organize bookshelves every day. If you're this useless, you shouldn't have agreed to take on the system's conquest mission in the first place. I lowered my eyes, no longer looking at those emotionally charged words. Only then did I notice a stray dog wagging its tail, eagerly approaching me. I gave it the only 2 pieces of meat from my lunchbox. Together with it, we shared this boxed meal under the night sky. 11. Worked at the bookstore for nearly a month. When the wounds on my body had mostly healed, only then did I unexpectedly see Qin Jin Nan again. At 11 p.m., the bookstore owner asked me to deliver a stack of packaged books to the building across the street. After passing through the security guards' rigorous checks and interrogations, I finally stepped into that building for the first time. After handing the book to the client, I prepared to leave. The office building was quiet at night, with most people already off work, so while waiting for the elevator, I faintly heard subtle movements coming from the end of the hallway. It sounded like the noise someone makes when in extreme pain. The elevator took forever to arrive. I turned my head and looked toward the end of the corridor. The words before me screamed at me to mind my own business. They even gave me advice, suggesting I take this opportunity to go down to the underground parking lot, to lie in wait for Qin Jin Nan getting off work. But I could hear that faint, pained, hoarse voice, standing silently in place for a long while. He finally turned and walked toward the end of the corridor. 12. But no one could have anticipated. Curled up at the stairwell of the emergency exit, sitting under the pale fluorescent light, was Qin Jin Nan. He wore a pure black shirt and dress pants, his shoulders broad and back straight, yet it was an uncommonly fragile appearance. As I opened the emergency exit door, he had already turned his head with alertness. Beads of sweat from intense pain dotted his temples, but the gaze he fixed upon me was filled entirely with indifference and wariness. I seemed to have stumbled upon a scene I shouldn't have seen. My footsteps froze on the spot, yet under Qin Jin Nan's gaze, I could only muster the courage to ask, "Should I call a doctor for you?" Qin Jin Nan continued staring coldly at me without uttering a word. I had to raise my hand to press the white mask tighter against my face. Because of the scars on my face, I'm afraid of frightening customers and children. In daily life when I'm outside, I always wear a white face covering mask. His gaze carried immense pressure. I already wanted to step back and leave, but seeing the veins bulging at his temples from the intense pain, looking at his pale, thin lips, for some inexplicable reason, a sense of compassion welled up inside me, so I still took a step forward and pulled out the painkillers from my pocket. I never went to a proper hospital to see a doctor for the injuries from some time ago. When the pain became unbearable, I relied on chewing painkillers to get through it. The painkillers I always carry in my bag actually came in handy at this moment. 13. Under Qin Jin Nan's gaze, I placed a pill by his side. As I turned to leave, he unexpectedly grabbed my wrist. His palm was icy cold, sending chills down my spine. I had no choice but to lower my gaze to look at him. We stood so close that our eyes met. "Who are you?" he finally rasped out. The lighting wasn't bright enough, yet I still caught a fleeting glimmer of light in his dark pupils. His movements were too fast. Completely disregarding whether I agreed or not, He had already casually hooked off the mask hanging on my face. Qin Jinnan's pupils were pitch black, reflecting the vivid scar on my face, too close, so I saw his eyes tremble slightly. My face is still too frightening. I raised my hand to hook the mask back on, saw his palm seem to suddenly lose strength, dangling a silver necklace, was just tightly clenched in his icy palm. The necklace was adorned with a silver watch face. At the center of the watch face, there was faintly the image of a smiling girl's face. I averted my gaze and didn't look any further, left the pills behind and walked away. This time, Qin Jinnan didn't stop me. Before leaving, I turned back for one last look at the doorway. Qin Jinnan remained seated in the same spot. He was clad in solemn black, yet entirely despondent. 14. Those white words are criticizing me again. They call me foolish, saying I don't get it, I give up. She's honestly the most useless protagonist I've ever encountered. She just stumbled upon incredible luck with that perfect opportunity, and she didn't even know how to seize it. She just left like that. Shouldn't we stay there and comfort the antagonist a bit? After finally meeting face to face in a private setting, she just left like that. What on earth is she doing? Some of those writings go even further, still fanning the flames. I thought I should be more direct. Throw myself into Qin Jinnan's arms, and use the most vulgar means to seduce him. Anyway, I'm doomed. Someone like me could never complete the conquest mission anyway. They can't wait for me to anger Qin Jinnan sooner and meet my demise. They don't want to see another strategist like me anymore. I died, naturally. A new, capable strategist will take my place. 15. The bookstore owner signed a long-term contract with the client in the building across the street. I often volunteered to run errands there. Occasionally, I could catch a glimpse of Qin Jinnan's figure from afar. He always wore black, with not a trace of any other color on him. The only exception was the occasional glimpse of a white shirt collar at his neck. His steps were always hurried, followed by a crowd of suit-clad, bowing subordinates. What he showed to others was his cold and unapproachable demeanor. Not a trace remained of that night's pallor and vulnerability. Sometimes when passing by the office area, I overhear employees gossiping in the break room. They say in the terrifying boss's office, there isn't a single vibrant color to be seen, not even a fresh flower can be found. The entire decor is oppressive shades of gray and black. It was no secret in the company that Qin Jinnan's wife had passed away early, perhaps because his son often appeared at the company, or perhaps because of that plain ring on his finger, never once taken off, so they even began to speculate, is Qin Jinnan living like an ascetic, keeping vigil for his deceased wife? Carrying a heavy stack of books, I silently walked through the glamorous crowd with my head down. I suddenly began to question whether agreeing to pursue Qin Jinnan was the right or wrong decision. 16. It's been over 2 months since I transmigrated into this world. From what I've learned, Qin Jinnan was indeed deeply devoted to his deceased wife. No wonder so many suitors before me have failed in their attempts. My progress in this conquest seems hopeless. Those white characters probably saw through my incompetence. Now they hardly pay any attention to me or scold me. My very existence seems to be tarnishing the love between Qin Jinnan and his deceased wife. I have no past, and it seems I have no future either. Should I really continue this seemingly hopeless pursuit? I lowered my head, lost in deep thought. The book I was holding was too thick, blocking part of my view, not paying attention to the book's edge. I bumped into a beautiful woman wearing a white suit dress and holding coffee. Most of the coffee spilled onto the book, while the rest splashed onto the woman's snow-white blouse. I kept my head down, busily wiping the books while apologizing to the woman in front of me. The woman's voice turned shrill as she frowned and grabbed my arm. Who let you in here? I explained that I was from the bookstore downstairs. The woman sneered. I've never heard of any possible collaboration between our company and some shabby little bookstore. 17. More and more people turned their gaze towards us. Still bowing my head, I kept apologizing to the woman, saying, your clothes, I'll wash them for you, or I'll buy you a new one. Can you even afford to? The woman looked at me disdainfully. Her nails were sharp, easily pulling at my hair and yanking off my mask. The mask fell off, completely revealing my face. At that moment, I heard someone gasp behind me. You, the beautiful woman in front of me froze mid-sentence. I closed my eyes briefly, raising my hand to adjust the mask, hiding the awkward emotions. I'm sorry. I bowed my head and apologized to her again. I'll accept whatever way you want to handle this matter. In the silence of the room, the elevator door suddenly emitted a crisp beep sound. At this moment, the doors automatically slid open on both sides as someone stepped out of the elevator cabin. A tall figure cast its shadow at my feet. 18. It's the subscription contract I signed with their bookstore. Qin Jinnan's voice was low and cool, devoid of any human warmth, yet at the moment the words fell, it bowed the heads of everyone present. What came to its senses before I did were those white characters, line after dense line, crowding my vision, but this time, the content of those words was quite simple and uniform, nothing but question marks, filling the entire screen. Which episode did I miss? I was just not speaking, not dead. Can someone tell me what's going on now? Dylan bro, how did you suddenly appear? No way, I've been watching this lady every day. What else could she possibly be doing that I don't know about? When I looked up in a daze, Qin Jinnan's black leather shoes had already stopped right by my feet. A cold sensation touched my wrist. It was Qin Jinnan suddenly grabbing hold of me. He circled my wrist with a force that brooked no resistance. I didn't dare, nor could I break free from Qin Jinnan's grasp. As I raised my hand, the stack of books I was holding scattered noisily across the floor. I slowly turned my head and found myself lost in Qin Jinnan's pitch-black eyes. He slightly lowered his head, staring straight into my eyes with an intense, profound gaze, but just as I tried to discern the emotions in his eyes, he subtly turned his head away without a trace. Same as always, no improvement at all, he said about me. Uttering such words, the hand gripping my wrist showed not the slightest sign of loosening. 19. With Qin Jinnan's appearance, the course of events instantly changed. The system and those texts had described Qin Jinnan's terror to me countless times, but this was the first time I witnessed Qin Jinnan's cruelty and tyranny with my own eyes. He didn't listen to a single word of the woman's explanation. With a faint raise of his hand, he summoned the bodyguards. The woman was dragged out of the floor. No one dared to say no, nor even lift their heads to glance at us. The Qin Jinnan before me was dangerous and inscrutable. I watched helplessly as that woman disappeared from this floor, raising my head slightly. I saw Qin Jinnan curl his lips into an inexplicable smile. That smile of his was directed at me. His cool fingertips gently caressed my wrist. At the same time, he lowered his head and said to me, I just got you out of that awkward situation. He asked me leisurely, how are you going to thank me? 20. As soon as Qin Jinnan spoke, those white characters once again flooded my vision with uniform question marks. I'd rather believe the villainous brother was possessed than accept he genuinely fell for this woman. Wait. You rejected the beautiful ones, the emotionally intelligent ones, even the one who looked identical to your late wife, and now you're telling me she's special. Why? The key point is, this lady has been here for so long, yet hasn't seriously done a single thing to actively pursue the targets. So why exactly is that? I'm even more confused than those indignant words. Don't understand the sudden change in Qin Jinnan's attitude towards me, don't understand his inexplicable words, don't understand his sudden appearance. Nor do I understand that smile on his face now. Perhaps it had been too long since he last smiled, for the curve at the corner of his lips looked particularly stiff, as if he had to carefully angle his reflection in the mirror before pulling up the corners of his mouth, until he led me into the elevator, stepping onto the 36th floor. I didn't give Qin Jinnan any other reaction. 21. Qin Jinnan's office occupies the southeast corner, with the entire floor opened up, facing the river on two sides. The view is exceptionally clear and expansive, but just as the rumors say, his office is draped in dark tones, extremely oppressive. I was pulled by Qin Jinnan to sit on the black leather sofa indoors, watching him take out a damp towel, squat in front of me, and carefully wipe away the coffee stains on my hands, from beginning to end. I neither had nor dared to refuse Qin Jinnan. I lowered my eyes to look at him, his sharp, piercing eyebrows pressed down slightly, unexpectedly revealing a gentle curve. He held a towel, wiping my hand finger by finger with his thumb. I looked at Qin Jinnan before me and murmured softly, will you? He tilted his head to look at me and let out a questioning hum. I swallowed hard, suppressing my fearful heartbeat. I asked him, what will you do to her? 22. Qin Jinnan has a notorious reputation. He acts without any rhyme or reason. It was me who bumped into that beautiful woman first. If she suffers because of this, my conscience won't get over this hurdle, but I'm still afraid of Qin Jinnan, so when I voiced the question, I instinctively clenched my fingers. My fingers were gently pried open as Qin Jinnan suddenly let out a chuckle. What are you thinking about? He reached up and ruffled my hair. He said, of course I only fired her. The dense white text before my eyes was filled entirely with exclamations and questions. It's already unreadable, amusing. It's been almost 10 years. And this is the first time I've known the villain brother can smile, just fired no matter how I hear it, I just can't believe it. The last person dragged away like this by bodyguards was this sister. That time, even without the villain brother's orders, this sister was beaten half to death. The villain actually brought someone into his private territory. Is he really interested in her? I honestly can't see what's so special about this woman. Is this suddenly turning into a domineering CEO falling for an ordinary ugly duckling? 23. Who told you something? Qin Jinnan looked at me. That inexplicable smile on his face seemed to never fade away. He was still holding my hand and said, "You seem to have some misunderstanding about me." His words were too suggestive. It instantly reminded me of the system's repeated warnings before I transmigrated here. I remained silent, just shaking my head slightly. Qin Jinnan acted as if proving his innocence. He said in front of me, "I don't have a hobby of intentionally hurting people," he said. "It's just that my employee was really impolite, so I fired her." I remembered when I first arrived, just because I glanced at him a little too long. I was thrown into the corner by his bodyguard. Remained silent without making a sound. Qin Jinnan had already stood up. He draped his black overcoat over my shoulders. "Come with me to a place," Qin Jinnan said. 24. Qin Jinnan actually took me to a private hospital. Perhaps he had someone clear the place in advance. The entire hospital floor had no other patients, only a group of doctors on standby, when Qin Jinnan sent me for a full-body checkup. Only then did I suddenly realize it had been a long time since I'd seen the original group of bodyguards who threw me against the wall by his side. By the time I finished all the examinations, the sky had turned completely dark. Qin Jinnan was exceptionally patient. He wore just a black shirt, with his overcoat draped over his arm, waiting for me outside the door. When the doctor approached us, Qin Jinnan merely lowered his eyes and rolled up my sleeve. He asked the doctor, "Can these scars be removed?" I looked at my arm covered with layers of old and new scars. The doctor's gloved fingers lightly touched my arm. He pointed at several wounds on my arm. "These fresh wounds can be treated, but the old scars from adulthood." The doctor stopped speaking under Qin Jinnan's increasingly cold gaze, only daring to mumble, Perhaps we still need to discuss some treatment plans downstairs." 25. When we finally left the hospital, I noticed two doctors following behind us. Qin Jinnan held my hand. Noticing my gaze, he calmly explained, "I've arranged for two doctors to care for your body at home." I turned my head to look at Qin Jinnan. Qin Jinnan said with complete naturalness, "Come home with me." He raised his hand and gently stroked my back, saying, "Let me take care of you." I swallowed with my dry throat and silently gazed at Qin Jinnan. I can't understand Qin Jinnan's actions. His progress is indeed too fast. So fast that I didn't even have time to react. 26. I thought so. And I voiced it out loud. "Why?" Qin Jinnan smiled. "I know the purpose of you coming to my side, coming to this world." He slowly uttered a few words. "You're here to conquer me." My heart skipped a beat. Qin Jinnan indeed knows everything, as if the entire world is under his control. "Then why did you choose me?" "The words have been laid out. There's no point in hiding or covering up anymore," I said. "The system mentioned that dozens to hundreds of strategists have entered this world." Qin Jinnan's fingers gently caressed the back of my hand. "We have already stepped into the elevator." With just one glance from him, the assistant, bodyguards, and doctor following behind spontaneously took the elevator on the other side. The elevator doors closed, leaving only Qin Jinnan and me alone in the confined space. We were already close enough, yet he took another step forward, lowered his head slightly, and moved to kiss my eyelids. His gaze was exceptionally earnest. So earnest that it held only me. I turned my head away just a second before he got closer. This was the first time I rejected Qin Jinnan. 27. I thought it would anger Qin Jinnan, expecting his retaliation or punishment, but he didn't. He just naturally kissed the mask surface near my ear. I heard his low voice. "Promise," he said, "because those strategists are just strategists, and you're just promise." Qin Jinnan uttered these two simple sentences. I was momentarily stunned. The text before my eyes was in complete chaos, dense and countless, a vast expanse of white. Holy crap, after all this cursing, turns out sis was the actual white moonlight. No wonder the villain dude seemed like he was possessed. So this was the system's final trump card. What about those who previously criticized her for just lazing around after transmigrating? Is there a possibility that even without her doing anything, the villain would come to her on his own? And to top it off, She's the deceased white moonlight, the buffs are stacked to the max, no one knows what method the system used, but it held back for something big and resurrected her in one go. Authentic products are indeed different from counterfeits, even with lost memories and a wounded face, the villain brother could still recognize her. Does anyone still dare to insult her now? Before, they criticized her for being indecisive. Now they praise her for having the kindness of a white moonlight, struggling to feed herself yet still stopping to feed a stray dog on the street. Before you were criticizing them for being inactive, now you're saying a white moonlight should have this gentle, unhurried personality, different from those goal-oriented conquerors. After mocking them relentlessly before, now that you know their identity, everyone's starting to kneel and apologize. 28. Promise. The moment Qin Jinnan solemnly uttered my name, countless fragments of light and shadow flashed through my mind, but when I came to my senses and tried to grasp them, there was nothing. My mind remains a blank void. All I know is, it turns out I was the one who made the promise. It turns out I was Sun Nua, Qin Jinnan's long-deceased wife. I gently raised my eyes, gazing at Qin Jinnan before me. I said, I can't remember anything. I know. Qin Jinnan lowered his head, pressing his forehead lightly against mine. The elevator had already reached the underground level, its doors automatically opening. Qin Jinnan swept me up in his arms. As my feet left the ground, I instinctively reached up to wrap my arms around his neck. I heard his voice say, let's go home first. 29. After I spoke openly, perhaps seeing I didn't resist, Qin Jinnan had even fewer reservations. He directly carried me from the car back to that unfamiliar, imposing high-rise villa. Stepping through the villa's entrance, the interior lights automatically turned on. As you enter through the main gate, a massive oil painting comes into view. It depicts the face of a young girl. Qin Jinnan followed my gaze, muttering softly, 10 years, it's been too long, so I learned some things to pass the time. The faint sound of piano from upstairs stopped at this moment. Someone pushed the door open and came out. It was Sun Yan. He looks exactly like his father, as if they were cast from the same mold. Even at home, he wears a uniform shirt and trousers. Standing on the second floor, looking down at us. 30. I lightly tapped Qin Jinnan's shoulder, wanting him to put me down. Qin Jinnan didn't comply. He only carried me to the sofa in the main hall. He's already 10 years old. He can understand what's being said. Qin Jinnan casually draped his coat aside. I've already made everything clear to him. It only took the time to say a couple of sentences. Sun Yan had already come downstairs. He stood before me, gazing at me from a step away. We both fell silent. I didn't know how to face the fact that he was my son. In the end, Sun Yan was the first to speak. Dad said the house was on fire. They lied to you, telling you I was still trapped inside, and you ran back to look for me. Sun Yan's words ended there. His tone was calm, his words clearly enunciated. As the words fell, tears welled up in his dark eyes, this time, watching Sun Yan's tears. As his words came forth, it was as if I was back in the sea of flames from 10 years ago. I vaguely recalled something. At that time, Sun Yan was still in swaddling clothes. Qin Jinnan didn't seem to be at home. I rushed into the sea of flames to find him, to find my child. The raging fire and thick smoke burned so intensely I couldn't open my eyes, but I still didn't hesitate to head towards the second floor. A collapsed beam struck my back. The flames licked at my hair and face. I never truly walked out of that fire. 31. Family ties are a peculiar thing. Watching Sun Yan's tears, I couldn't help but cry too. Sun Yan took a step forward and gently leaned against my knee. He raised his hand and, under my gaze, softly removed my mask. He stared at the ugly scar on my face. His fingertips lightly touched it. Mommy, he called out, looking up at me. My tears wouldn't stop. Bowed her head and embraced his slender back. Sun Yan, calm and steady, personally raised by his father, in my arms. He burst into loud, wailing sobs. Throughout the process, Qin Jinnan remained seated by my side, keeping watch over me. Look at me quietly and intently, until you hear my suppressed sobs. Only then did he raise his hand to pull Sun Yan away, saying, your mother needs to rest now. 32. At night, I sat by the headboard in the master bedroom flipping through Sun Yan's old photos. Qin Jinnan raised him very well. From birth to now at 10 years old, there are documented photos every year. Qin Jinnan came out of the bathroom. He directly lifted the blanket and sat beside me. I shrank my legs slightly. He had already raised his arm to embrace my waist and back, pulled me into his embrace. Do you know when I confirmed it was really you? I tilted my head to look at him. At midnight on the 23rd last month, you were feeding a dog outside the bookstore, Qin Jinnan said. As the car drove past, I only caught a glimpse of your profile. For nearly 10 years I'd felt no emotional fluctuations, but in that instant, my heart raced so violently it nearly burst from my chest. Qin Jinnan rubbed my hand. But the system is restless. These past 10 years, I've made sure it suffers, while it constantly sets traps for me. I fear it's all a fleeting dream, or perhaps just a reflection in water. That's why I recognized you. But I didn't dare approach you, afraid that if I got closer, you'd disappear. Qin Jinnan's arms were long and strong, encircling my waist. I leaned passively against his shoulder, glancing at him sideways. I whispered, "So, that night in the company's emergency stairwell, you did it on purpose." Qin Jinnan didn't deny it at all, admitting it straightforwardly. "I knew it was you, but I was too afraid." Even someone like Qin Jinnan could openly admit to being afraid. Over these 10 years, during countless long nights, I've had many dreams. In them, you felt real, but upon waking, there was nothing left. I'm afraid this might just be another beautiful dream. That's why I observe you, follow you, even make you appear before me countless times. Only then do I dare reach out and grab hold of you. 33. That night I lay sideways on Qin Jinnan's bed. He lay beside me, holding me close against him. The moonlight was bright, seeping through the window cracks. Qin Jinnan held me as we gazed at the moon together. "The stray dog you used to feed, I had someone take it home. It's kept outside the courtyard now. If you like, you can visit it tomorrow." Neither of us felt sleepy, so he was talking to me intermittently, muttering incessantly, as if trying to make up for 10 years' worth of unspoken words. He spoke of how he had raised Sun Yin. He talked about all those strategists the system had sent to his side over the years. He spoke of how much he had missed me all these years. He stroked my hair and said, "Don't rush to recover your memories. I'll slowly tell you everything you want to know." I turned gently and nestled into his embrace. "Why was I resurrected by the system?" I asked Qin Jinnan softly. "Did you make some kind of deal with it?" Qin Jinnan's gaze froze. 34. I've been pondering this question all along. Both Qin Jinnan and the system are aware of each other's existence. Perhaps they could even communicate in some way. The original male and female protagonists of this world died years ago, yet the world continues to operate normally. The system was left barely functioning after Qin Jinnan's meddling. It should hate Qin Jinnan, yet they still chose to revive me. Then my revival could only be the inevitable outcome orchestrated by Qin Jinnan. I voiced my question aloud. Qin Jinnan paused briefly, then gently smoothed my bangs while chuckling softly. He gazed into my eyes and gently kissed the scar on my cheek. He whispered to me, "So clever. In the first 2 years after you left, after I killed the destined male and female leads, I discovered the operating rules of this world. The world's operation requires energy, which was previously supplied and maintained by the male and female leads. With the death of the male and female leads, the world should have descended into complete chaos, but I forced the system to emerge. The system revealed that thriving economic development and population growth are also the energy sources that sustain the world and its existence. So all these years, I've been expanding my business empire, aggressively developing across all industries. I supply energy to the system. I demanded to revive you." I blinked, gazing at Qin Jinnan's gentle face before me. The man before me was completely different from the ruthless deity described by the system. Their communication could never be as harmonious as Qin Jinnan claimed. The business empire he built over the past decade, vast enough to sustain the entire world and the system, could never have been achieved as effortlessly as he made it sound. So I asked aloud, "You're exploiting its weakness, threatening it?" Qin Jinnan held the back of my neck and chuckled. "Yes, I can provide the energy it needs to survive, and I can also completely destroy it. It's been accustomed to being superior. But now I'm forcing its hand, so naturally it resents me. That's why over the years, it's intermittently sent many smokescreens my way, those so-called strategists. Even this time, it didn't heal you." Qin Jinnan narrowed his eyes slightly, a dangerous glint flashing briefly within them. Qin Jinnan gently touched my wounds. "But this is my problem. I'll find a way to cure you. As for the system, I won't let it off either." Qin Jinnan unexpectedly spoke such words in front of me. Yet I no longer felt afraid, just lightly covered her lips and chuckled. "At noon, you were still claiming your innocence in front of me." Qin Jinnan also smiled. "I don't know how the system described me to you. I was afraid you might fear me." He let out a soft sigh, gazing at me earnestly. He said, "Sunua, I will never hurt you. don't be afraid of me. 35. That night, Qin Jinnan held me as I fell asleep. He seemed insecure, his arms tightly encircling my waist. Like clinging vines growing upon me, I was kept half awake by his pestering. I had many, many dreams. That night, for the first time, I clearly saw the chaotic contents of those dreams. I remembered those years when Qin Jinnan and I depended on each other for survival. I grew up with him in the orphanage. When I turned 12, the orphanage director attempted to molest me. Qin Jinnan plunged a sharp dagger deep into the director's thigh. He crippled the director by taking one of his legs. Took me away from that dark place. 36. Those years, Qin Jinnan and I actually had a very hard time. We lived in a leaking basement, sharing the same bowl of rice. Survival is already a very difficult thing, so in those years, Qin Jinnan would do anything and use anyone. He just would never hurt me. He raised me and sent me to school. I brought up countless times that the tuition fees are too high, and that I could start working to earn money together with him, but Qin Jinnan would only hold me tighter with his scar-covered arms. He said no. That was the only no he ever said to me. The dream replayed the emotions I felt back then. It was all worry and depression. My whole heart was hung on Qin Jinnan, fearful that he might sustain new injuries again. Afraid he might not come home for another 10 days or half a month. Afraid he might step into the abyss himself, yet kept it from me, telling me nothing. The year I got into university, Qin Jinnan's career took a turning point. After years of lying low, he overthrew the group's leader in one move and took the top position. By that time, we were no longer short of money. During my college years, I had privately advised Qin Jinnan several times. Say I'm already in college and will soon be able to work and earn money. Say we don't need such a luxurious life. Say I just want to spend the rest of my life peacefully with him. I don't want him to be trapped in the center of darkness. All men have the desire to expand their territory, but Qin Jinnan always respected my opinions the most. So in the year I graduated from university, he married me and promised to carve out a clean path for us, spend the rest of your life with me. But in those years, Qin Jinnan offended countless people. He let others go, but others wouldn't let him go. He married me. I was the living target. I died in a great fire, a conspiracy in which both the male and female leads were involved. 37. In the 2 years after my death, Qin Jinnan completely lost control. He indiscriminately took revenge on everyone involved in that accident. Then he broke through the world's restrictions, exposed the system hiding behind the scenes. Only then did we realize we were merely living in a story revolving around the male and female leads. Only then did I understand that the suffering we endured, the love we experienced, even my death, were nothing more than background settings for the male and female leads. Qin Jinnan discovered the truth of the world. Thus began the following 10 years. Moreover, it repeatedly warned about the dangers of that antagonist. My time 38, I awoke from my dream, tears at the corner of my eyes. I turned my face and saw Qin Jinnan beside me. He was keeping watch by my side. Frowning slightly as he gazed at me, it seemed no more words could be spoken. I just turned my face away and buried it in his chest, gently wrapped my arms around his back. Qin Jinnan. I whispered his name. The person I was holding trembled slightly. Even after a decade apart, our unspoken understanding remains as strong as ever. I softly called out. He already knew I'd regained all my memories. Qin Jinnan slowly raised his arms and embraced me in return. He applied pressure slowly, as if trying to meld me into his very being. Promise, he whispered by my ear. I've missed you so much. Promise. The response, a decade overdue, finally arrived. I leaned against his chest and whispered, I'm here. Story 2. The junior schoolmate drew the truth or dare challenge and took the initiative to kiss my boyfriend, Duan Xiao. I broke up with him in public, but he just thought I was being petulant. Don't be such a spoilsport. If it were you kissing someone else for the game, I wouldn't care at all. Duan Xiao just believed that a good girl like me wouldn't do anything out of line. In the next round, his brother, Fu Xizhou, the heartthrob of the finance department, also drew a truth or dare challenge. Take a girl to spend the night together. He slowly reached out his hand towards me and smiled with a curve of his lips. Do you want to give it a try with me tonight? Finally, I placed my hand in his palm and agreed. That night, Duan Xiao called me until my phone was about to explode. 01. The content of Xinying's truth or dare challenge was, please choose any boy present and kiss him for 3 minutes. The next second, her eyes landed directly on Duan Xiao beside me. Everyone looked over along her line of sight. Duan Xiao just lowered his eyes and played with my palm. as if he couldn't feel that scorching gaze. Shining asked me timidly, "Senior, can I borrow Senior Duan for 3 minutes?" The air was so quiet that it seemed as if everyone had softened their breathing, nervously and expectantly watching this showdown. I really didn't understand. There are so many single boys here. Why don't you ask someone else? She was speechless, biting her lower lip and showing an embarrassed look, but she still moved to the other side of the booth to ask other men. They all refused one by one until the third boy. "I'm okay with it." The boy smiled lewdly, "A French kiss." Shining was so embarrassed that she was about to cry and kept shaking her head. "No need, no need." The boy had drunk a little too much and directly grabbed Shinying's hand, boldly about to kiss her. Duan Xiao, who had been acting nonchalant beside me, finally stopped pretending. He let go of my hand, stood up, and pulled Shining back. He sneered and questioned, "Is it interesting to bully a little girl?" Shining tightly held Duan Zhao's hand and looked at him for help. At the same time, I also grabbed his sleeve. Duan Xiao looked back at me. I didn't make him lose face. I smiled casually as if nothing had happened. "My head hurts a bit. Can you take me home?" "Come with me, Duan Xiao. As long as you leave with me now, I will believe that you only like me and have no feelings for Shining, who has been pestering you." Our eyes met. He avoided my hand. "You know that. I can't leave." Seeing that my eyes were welling up with water as I looked straight at him, he let go of Shinying's hand and squatted in front of me. There was a bit more coaxing in his clear and quiet voice. "Shining is my direct junior. I have to protect her. Yuan, be good." He raised his hand and gently rubbed the corner of my eye. "If you don't want to see it, don't look. Wait for me for a few minutes." I tightly grasped his sleeve, wrinkling the cuffs of his white shirt. "Duan Xiao, if you kiss her, I will definitely break up with you." My eyes were extremely dry, but not a single tear fell. Staring into his eyes, I emphasized, "I really will." Duan Zhao's patience ran out. He tore my fingers one by one. He stood up and looked down at me. "Don't be so petty, Yuan." Meeting his eyes at this moment, I was stunned for a while. The last time I saw this kind of look in his eyes was when he heard that the nanny in his family wanted to introduce her daughter to him. There was endless contempt hidden in his polite refusal. 02. One of Duan Zhao's brothers couldn't stand it and couldn't help but persuade me. "Sister-in-law, don't take it too seriously. It's just a game." His girlfriend whispered, "Yeah, really a spoilsport. Why come to the bar if you can't play like this?" Before I could speak, Fu Xizhou, who had been sitting in the corner of the box and silent all the time, suddenly chuckled. The focus of the whole audience instantly shifted to him. His eyes landed on the girl who had just spoken. His wrist was propped on his head. He asked slowly, "You can play, then go and kiss all the men here." After saying that, he seemed to think of something and said slowly, "Except me, I can't play." He seemed to be very good at grasping the measure, enough to make the girl embarrassed, but not to the point of turning against her. Sure enough, the girl just stammered for a long time. Her face flushed red, and she couldn't say anything. Fu Xizhou bit the cigarette lightly and lit one. Leaning against the booth, he threw the metal lighter on the coffee table. He sneered and threw her words back at her. "Spoilsport." I stared at him in shock without blinking. I didn't expect that as Duan Zhao's friend, he would speak up for me. I was so surprised that even when the two people in front of me finished their 3-minute kiss, I just came back to my senses, skipping the step of being sad. 03. When Duan Xiao sat back beside me, I just opened my phone and directly deleted his WeChat. The faint satisfaction on his face instantly dissipated, and he looked at me emotionlessly. "What do you mean? I told you just now. Break up." Just as I was about to block his phone number, he pressed my hand. "Are you going to be endless?" Duan Xiao laughed ridiculously, with a hint of thin anger in his confusion. "It's just a game. How far do you want to act up? If it were you kissing someone else because of a game, I wouldn't care at all." He knew my rule-abiding character, so he was so unscrupulous. As soon as he finished speaking, the over there suddenly increased in volume. It was Fu Xizhou who had drawn the most exciting truth or dare challenge. "Please take any girl present to spend the night." A boy smiled meaningfully and added, "I mean, really go to a hotel and everything." At first, Fu Xizhou didn't move. People who knew him came out to smooth things over. "Can't you see my brother Fu's shoulders are hunched? He has been extremely clean living for so many years. Just have a drink as a penalty and it's over." The people present didn't take it too seriously either. After all, so far, almost everyone who has drawn this truth or dare challenge has just perfunctorily passed it. Few have actually taken action. "Wait," Fu Xizhou suddenly spoke. Unexpectedly, he raised his eyes and looked at me. Everyone fell silent and stared in astonishment as he slowly walked up to me and reached out his hand to me. When he smiled with a curve of his lips, it seemed as if he could charm people's hearts. "Do you want to consider giving it a try with me tonight?" Duan Shao narrowed his eyes and sized up Fu Shizhou, smiling and reminding, "If you're drunk, I'll have someone take you home, Shizhou. This is my girlfriend." The smell of gunpowder filled the air. Fu Shizhou casually glanced at him sideways. "So, it's just a game, Duan Shao. Don't be a spoilsport." Duan Shao looked indifferent. "How could I be? My girlfriend is too conservative. She definitely won't agree to you. I'll just reject it for her." But the next second, I placed my hand in Fu Shizhou's palm. "Okay." Duan Zhao's smile froze on his face. I thought of the malice in their tones every time I was called a good girl after entering university, as if they were looking at a feudal remnant. The alcohol was fueling my rebellious mentality, so I agreed to him as if possessed. Fu Shizhou looked at me holding his hand and slightly raised his eyebrows. He pulled me up and walked towards the door. There were constant exclamations behind us. "Damn it, that's Brother Fu, right? I'm not drunk and seeing things, am I? I'd rather believe that Brother Fu has been possessed." Duan Zhao's voice was the most obvious among them. "Stop." He was still sitting in the booth. The way he looked at me was like looking at a willful child. In a casual tone, "I just wanted to say," he smiled and said, "remember to tell me which hotel you're staying in, I'll send you some condoms." I spoke up before Fu Shizhou, smiling brightly. "No need. Are you being a bit too eager to please after breaking up and still worrying about your ex-girlfriend's hotel stay, Duan Shao?" I looked at him with pity and refused not to euphemistically. "Sorry, I don't really like lapdogs." Before Duan Shao could turn black-faced, I pulled Fu Shizhou and opened the door to leave. 04. It was only when I was sitting in Fu Shizhou's car that I let out a long, carefree sigh. The depression was completely gone. I politely thanked Fu Shizhou. "Thank you, Senior Fu, for helping me out today. Just drop me off at the subway station ahead." I took it for granted that I didn't take that truth or dare challenge seriously. And most likely Fu Shizhou thought the same. He controlled the steering wheel with one hand, and his voice was lazy. "Do you know the consequences of lying to them?" I shook my head, but I didn't care too much either. Sometimes before playing truth or dare, people would make an oath like, "If you lie, you'll be struck by lightning and stay single for the rest of your life." But I don't believe in such things. I took out my phone to see what was said in the group at that time. Group owner: "Let's play some exciting truth or dare tonight. Whoever lies will be poor for a lifetime, in debt, and never be able to get rich again." My pupils dilated in shock. I read these words over and over again. No, I really believe this. Before I could calm down from my panic, Fu Shizhou had already parked the car at the subway entrance. He jerked his chin towards the door and said with a half-smile, "Get out, junior schoolmate. It's just being poor for a lifetime. It's not a big deal." "No, this is very important." I immediately shook my head and tightly held the door handle. Fu Shizhou seemed to have misunderstood. "Can't open the door." As he spoke, he leaned over and placed his hand on the door handle. I didn't hesitate to press down on Fu Shizhou's hand to stop him from opening the door. His other hand was propped on the side of my seat, and his body was suspended above me. He quietly trapped me in the narrow space. Fu Shizhou looked down. "What do you mean?" A mess of thoughts was spinning rapidly in my mind. I blinked and blurted out, "I want to sleep with you." Fu Shizhou's eyes showed no emotion, and he retreated to the driver's seat. He pulled the corner of his lips meaninglessly. "But I don't want to." Me. The atmosphere instantly froze into ice. It was so embarrassing that the top of my head seemed to be shaken. I at least had a mental breakdown 3 times in my heart before I slowly nodded. I didn't let my voice tremble. "Sorry. I seem to have drunk a bit too much. I offended you, Senior Fu." I lowered my head and said goodbye softly. "Then I'll go first." Fu Shizhou's fingertips moved, and he locked the car door. He started the car without saying a word. I looked back. The boy's side face looked a bit colder and more solemn than before. I guessed that he was angry about my previous overstepping and didn't allow me to escape, so I endured the embarrassment and tentatively apologized again. "I'm sorry, Senior, I didn't mean it. I really don't have any thoughts about you." I fidgeted in the passenger seat, my head lowered like a primary school student who had made a mistake. My voice was almost a murmur. "I don't want to sleep with you. You're very handsome. But you're definitely not my type. Don't worry, Senior, you're safe." No one responded. The atmosphere in the car completely cooled down. I noticed that the car was speeding up, Why is Fu Shizhou even more angry? 05. Under my nervous and rich mental activity changes, Fu Shizhou stopped at the entrance of a bar, meeting my confused gaze. He pressed his forearm on the steering wheel and casually glanced at me, briefly explaining, "Don't forget, we have to be together all night." Oh, so we don't have to do that to avoid breaking the promise. Fu Shizhou is really a clean, living and smart good student. I immediately got out of the car and followed his steps. Fu Shizhou knew the owner of this place. He arranged for me to sit in the booth and then disappeared. A call from an unknown number quickly diverted my attention. On the other end of the receiver, Shening and Duan Xiao were chatting. "Senior Duan, why don't you call senior sister? Aren't you worried at all that she might cheat?" Duan Xiao thought her words were funny. "Don't I know how futile she is? She's just saying it casually to be angry with me." There was a hint of casualness in the boy's voice, as if he had everything under control. "She must have already gone back to the dormitory to sleep." Shening giggled, "But seeing how calm senior is, it seems that you don't value senior sister very much either." There was a few seconds silence on the other side before the answer came, "Not that much." I was so angry that I immediately hung up the phone, feeling a sense of anger and shame at having the truth exposed, because I really was going to go back to the dormitory, wash up, and go to sleep. My chest felt as if it was blocked by a ball of wet cotton, heavy and suffocating. Just then, the cocktail I ordered was delivered. I directly grabbed it and took a big gulp, trying to extinguish this nameless anger. The waiter looked at me speechlessly. Just as he turned to leave, he suddenly stopped. He turned around sharply. "Miss, the wrong drink was served. This one is a special blend our boss made for himself." He let out a panicked scream like a boiling kettle. I comforted him. "It's okay, I'll pay you the original price." The waiter ignored my words and threw away the tray, running towards the direction where Fu Shizhou had left upstairs. 06. Soon I understood why he was so panicked. This drink, it was spiked. When Fu Shizhou appeared in front of me, my sobriety dropped to 2.5% in an instant. Yuan, how are you?" The boy bent down and approached me. His cold hand was pressed against my cheek. "So cool." I leaned against him comfortably and rubbed against it again, but with 2.5% sobriety, I couldn't help but think of his rejection of me. Reluctantly, I pushed away his hand. I jumped off the swivel chair and walked outside. "Where are you going?" Fu Shizhou grabbed my arm and frowned tightly. I thought about it and replied instinctively, "Senior, I seem to need a man now," afraid that he might misunderstand. I seriously assured him, "But it won't be you. After all, he helped me. It would be too immoral for me to force myself on him." So I strengthened my tone and said word by word, "Don't worry, I won't look for you no matter who I look for." Fu Shizhou's face had turned extremely ugly. He let go of my hand and asked coldly, looking down at me, "Really, Song Yuan, I hope you can do what you say." When I came to my senses again, I found that I had been carried by Fu Shizhou to a hotel room upstairs at some point. At the same time, my self-control dropped another notch. I felt as if I was in a swamp in the tropical rainforest, unbearably hot and restless. Fu Shizhou took off all his upper body clothes. He was left with only a pair of gray drawstring sweatpants. He leaned lazily on the sofa and stared at me coldly. "Come here." My eyes swept over the 6 neatly arranged little buns on his abs. Then they fixed there and I couldn't look away. "Woo-woo." I obediently shuffled in front of him. Fu Shizhou was playing with something that looked like a bottle of medicine in his hand. His peach blossom eyes were blurred and captivating. He half coaxed, half not. "For the sake of me helping you today, would you help me apply some medicine?" I nodded, feeling like a melting ice cream cone, hot and weak. But I still took on this arduous task. "Where does it hurt, senior?" Fu Shizhou took my hot hand and placed it on one of the little buns. "Here." I blinked quickly and changed the subject, completely unaware that my face at this moment was like a ripe and overcooked peach. Fu Shizhou didn't answer. He took my hand and placed it on another little bun. "This place also hurts, junior schoolmate." He returned to his flirtatious look, with a lingering smile. As I was applying the medicine, I unconsciously sat on his lap. He used the same trick again, taking my fingertips and stroking them against his lips. "Does this place hurt too?" I stared straight at those thin lips. Fu Shizhou's voice was hoarse. "Give it a kiss and you'll know if it hurts." I put my arms around his neck, lured to the point of losing all my reason. I gently kissed him, and then pulled away immediately. Fu Shizhou placed his hands on my waist and looked down at me, asking softly, Why did you stop kissing?" I was a bit embarrassed and asked him for permission. Can I kiss again? After getting an affirmative answer, I kissed him again without any scruples. Fu Shizhou pressed the back of my head and took the initiative. He forcefully pried open my teeth without hesitation. 08. When Fu Shizhou's hand had already reached under my shirt, my phone rang inappropriately. Fu Shizhou held my face and continued to kiss my lips, until he looked up and glanced at the caller ID on the phone. Then he pulled back a little. He picked up the phone and answered it. On the other end, Duan Zhao's voice was deep and urgent. Song Yuan, where are you now? Your roommate told me you didn't go back to the dormitory. Who are you with right now? Fu Shizhou casually pecked at my lips and perfunctorily replied to him, are you calling at this time to bring us birth control products? I completely ignored Duan Zhao on the phone. I still wanted more and rubbed against Fu Shizhou's arms, chasing his lips. More. Fu Shizhou smiled, pinched my chin and turned my head slightly. He drawled out an and whispered ambiguously, I'll give it to you later. Duan Zhao was rarely this manic. Fu Shizhou, you know how much I like Song Yuan and you still dare to touch her. You're not being a good brother. Fu Shizhou put the phone on speaker and threw it aside. He took my hand and placed it on the drawstring of his pants, teaching me to untie it. Regarding Duan Zhao's words, he replied in agreement, then not anymore, not brothers anymore. I thought Duan Zhao was really annoying, because he kept babbling like an impatient king, causing Fu Shizhou to have no time to kiss me. I snatched the phone, hung up and turned it off. Fu Shizhou smiled knowingly, slightly tilted his head to avoid my nose and kissed me. 09. I had heard countless times from senior and junior schoolmates that Fu Shizhou was a taciturn and cold-hearted person, but he was particularly talkative tonight. Don't move, let me take it off for you. Yuan, this part is also very beautiful, don't cover it. He was extremely gentle. His words of praise and encouragement were particularly charming in his hoarse voice. Yuan, you're amazing. Open your eyes and look at yourself in the mirror. Okay, how could it be? It's obviously sweet. Do you want to taste yourself? I almost drowned in such a sweet trap. Unconsciously, I did many things that I would be so embarrassed about when I thought back to them after waking up that I would want to bang my head on the ground. 10. When I woke up the next day, Fu Shizhou had already left. He didn't leave a single word. Obviously, he didn't want to have any connection with me. It was just an accident. I sat up holding the quilt, feeling a bit of expected loneliness. But when the warm sunlight hit my shoulder with red marks, I quickly let it go. Consider it as me getting a free ride with the heartthrob of the department. 11. I didn't have a blackout, so I wasn't surprised at all when I saw Duan Zhao downstairs at the dormitory. Yuan, when Duan Zhao walked in front of me, his expression wasn't as furious as I had expected. His tone was even a bit softer than usual. I deleted all of Xinying's contact information and will keep my distance from her in the future. Can you just pretend that what you said about breaking up yesterday didn't happen? Okay. I didn't know what expression to make to convey my current shock and the indescribable feeling, compared to the behavior of him kissing Xining and then dumping me. I couldn't understand how he clearly knew what happened between me and Fu Shizhou last night, yet he could immediately come to me to make up. I even suspected that he had a cuckold fetish. I paused and still asked in confusion, aren't you mind that I was with Fu Shizhou last night? He raised his hand and flicked my forehead, looking relaxed. Stop pretending. Yuan, I already know. You two didn't do anything last night. I was stunned. My first reaction was that Fu Shizhou had told him, right. His leaving without saying goodbye was already a strong indication that he wanted to hide the fact that I took advantage of him. As Duan Zhao spoke, he wanted to hug me, but you really did deceive me. I went crazy looking for you all night, so we're even. Okay. I was extremely annoyed and pushed Duan Zhao away forcefully. I said we broke up. Can you stop bothering me? Please stay away from me. I did divination all night last night and it said you're bad for my financial luck. I was tired after more than 3 hours last night. I went back to the dormitory, wrapped myself in the small quilt and continued to catch up on sleep. 12. I was woken up by my roommate until the afternoon. Yuan, there's a meeting in your club. The club president said she called you but your phone was off and couldn't reach you. She asked me to inform you. I sat up quietly. After a while, I yawned slowly. Okay, thank you. Then, like a sloth, I slowly climbed out of bed, washed up, charged my phone and went out. When I walked to the club classroom, I had completely regained my energy. It wasn't time for the meeting yet. The president, including Fu Shizhou, hadn't arrived. A junior schoolmate came up to me hesitantly. She blushed and tugged at my sleeve. Senior, do you know if Vice President Fu Shizhou has a girlfriend? I want to chase him. An inexplicable sense of shame welled up in my heart. I didn't even know why I was feeling guilty. I shook my head at her. Probably not. The junior schoolmate's eyes lit up obviously and she asked. Then do you know about Senior Fu? Can you tell me something about him? I shook my head more vigorously, trying to distance myself. To restore Fu Shizhou's pure and flawless image as a flower on a high mountain. I'm not familiar with him. I haven't even spoken a few words to him. The next second, a sarcastic laugh came from behind. True, after all, I was the one doing all the talking last night. All you said was and ah. I could feel a cold aura without even turning around. Fu Shizhou was wearing a windbreaker today. The zipper was pulled up to the very top, almost touching his chin. The all-black outfit added a bit of sternness to him. He leaned against the door frame with his arms crossed, smiling faintly. 13. I was pulled by Fu Shizhou to another empty classroom. He placed me on the table and supported himself on both sides of me with his hands. He stared at me coldly. I didn't see this coming. Junior schoolmate, you're so heartless. What a huge false accusation. I suddenly raised my head, and my lips almost brushed against his chin. Fu Shizhou obviously made an evasive movement. Who taught you this? Kiss and sleep with someone and not be responsible. I put on a straight face and retorted righteously. I didn't mean to kiss you. It was an accident. He snorted softly. I advise you to think again. For no reason. The scene of me asking Fu Shizhou for a kiss last night suddenly flooded into my mind. The straight-backed posture I had just assumed slumped down. Fu Shizhou was clearly angry. He continued to settle the score. Sleep with me and then run away without a word. Then he lowered his eyes and hooked the corner of his lips self-deprecatingly. He looked completely lonely. I didn't expect you to dislike me so much. To draw a clear line from me, not answering the phone or replying to messages, going to such lengths. I realized that there might be a misunderstanding. I didn't have the slightest thought of refuting or arguing back. My voice softened. I don't dislike you, Senior. I woke up and saw you weren't there. I thought you had left first. My phone was turned off all the time. I forgot to turn it on. I didn't mean to ignore you on purpose. He raised his eyebrows. Probably he didn't expect things to turn out this way. Then he spoke slowly to explain that he had gone to buy me breakfast this morning. He had already sent me a WeChat message to tell me. It was just that my phone was off and I didn't see it. The misunderstanding was cleared up. Fu Shizhou's hand landed on my waist, so, he smiled gently, but there was no smile in his eyes. Instead, there was a threat. Junior schoolmate, you'll be responsible for me, right? The last two words were bitten off particularly clearly, as if I denied it, I would meet the Grim Reaper. I shivered and nodded like I was going to my doom. Fu Shizhou finally let me go. I jumped off the table and was about to go back to the meeting. The person behind me called me again. He put away his smile, looking gentle and serious. Afraid you might misunderstand that I'm only doing this for the sake of responsibility, so I want to emphasize this. Fu Shizhou looked at me. His eyes were cleaner than a clear spring. I like you, since a long time ago. 14. When I got along with Fu Shizhou, I always felt a bit of unfamiliar awkwardness. Especially after he confessed, but it seemed that only I was awkward. Until that time, after completely breaking through this barrier, I just let it all go. Someone reminded on the school confession wall. Recently, there has been a perverted man around the school. He is very fat. He loves to expose his private parts to girls on the street. He gets pleasure from the girls' screams and running away in a panic. 15. Near the end of the semester, I was already annoyed by memorizing the key points. That day, I happened to meet the perverted man when I was like a firecracker. On the quiet street in the evening, there was no sound of my terrified scream. The perverted man was stunned and looked at my calm expression in confusion. I took a look and clicked my tongue in annoyance. I started cursing completely. Do you think you have something to show off so you expose it on the street? Are you so proud of having a chili pepper hanging on a tree, compared with my boyfriend? It's really delicate and small. Using all the adjectives for tiny in the world is not enough to describe it. Perverted man, you, don't get defensive. I took out my phone, unlocked it and started recording him. Don't you like to show off? I'll start a live stream to promote you. You're welcome. I kept my other hand in my bag, holding a stun gun. I stared at the perverted man's every move. If he didn't run away but attacked me in a fit of anger, I would shock him so that he wouldn't be able to feel his little chili pepper for the rest of his life. He looked fierce, but suddenly his eyes stopped on something behind me. Immediately, he didn't know whether to cover his face or his chili pepper and ran away. Before I could feel proud of my righteous act of getting rid of the evil, unhurried footsteps sounded behind me. The moment I turned around, I completely froze in place. The moment I met Fu Shizhou's eyes, I wished I could be struck by lightning. Fusijo's peach blossom eyes were filled with an extremely lascivious smile at this moment. He had just opened his mouth when he was interrupted by another voice not far away. May I ask, who is the boyfriend you mentioned? Duan Shao didn't know how long he had been standing there. His expression was blank, but it was like the calm before a storm. Fusijo quietly stood in front of me. Looking back at Duan Shao, he smiled casually. What do you think? Duan Shao stared at him and issued a final ultimatum. Sijo, this has nothing to do with you. I'm talking to Song Yuan. In a flash, I suddenly remembered a question that I had always overlooked. Why was Duan Shao so sure that nothing had happened between me and Fusijo that day? Obviously, Fusijo hadn't told him anything. As I was thinking this, Duan Shao himself said it. Didn't you two stay in the bar all night and never come out? The hand hanging by his side was already bulging with veins. You'd better not tell me. You did it in the bar booth. He twitched the corner of his mouth and sneered disdainfully. Isn't that too disgusting? I walked out from behind Fusijo and questioned, how do you know we went to the bar again? Duan Shao, were you following us? His smile turned even colder. Do I have that much free time? Then he brought up the chat records of the small group in the department he was in charge of in the club and showed them to us. One of the group members' home was just near that bar. When he was going home, he happened to see Fusijo's car, so he sent it to the group. The next morning, he saw that the car hadn't moved, coupled with the image that Fusijo had established in the past 3 years of keeping a respectful distance from girls. So he took it for granted and came to the conclusion on his own. Me and Fusijo just stayed in the bar all night to fulfill the truth or dare challenge. As for the phone call that Duan Shao made in the middle, it was also considered as us deliberately making sarcastic remarks to annoy Duan Shao. 16 Duan Shao put away his phone and his gaze swept back and forth between the two of us. Finally, it settled on Fusijo, and he smiled calmly. Fusijo, if you really slept with my girlfriend, I'll fucking kill you. I immediately stepped in front of Fusijo and looked at him warily. My voice was stern. Duan Shao, don't go crazy. I'll emphasize it one last time. I broke up with you that night in the bar. Fusijo seemed not to feel this solemn atmosphere. He maintained his usual calm and composure. He pushed aside my hand and walked up to Duan Shao. He curved his lips seductively and his words were provocative. It wasn't me who slept with her. It was her who slept with me. The taut rope suddenly snapped. Duan Shao cursed and made a move to raise his hand, but was pressed down by Fusijo. Instead, he took a punch from Fusijo. This was the first time I saw him full of hostility. Fusijo grabbed his collar and leaned in. What right do you have to question me? If you hadn't done those fuck things, would she have left you? Duan Shao panted heavily and tried to fight back, but he was kicked hard in the chest by Fusijo and fell to the ground. He looked down at him almost disdainfully. I'm really confused. What on earth gives you the confidence to be sure that no matter what you do, she won't leave you? Duan Shao looked at me, who was watching coldly not far away, his eyes deep and complex. I turned a blind eye to it. When Fusijo came over, I naturally took his hand and left. I didn't deliberately lower my voice as I complained about my ex to my current boyfriend. He's so weak. 17. Duan Shao was just a small episode. What was supposed to come would still come. After the last class in the evening, I followed Fusijo to his apartment outside. Because he had a super cute Siamese cat, I went there with no ulterior motives at first, until after dinner, when we were watching a movie. Fusijo fed me half a bottle of fruit wine. At the slightly tipsy stage, I was so bold that I could pierce the sky. Fusijo held me on his lap and asked with great interest, do you still remember its size? I was fed up with his confident and flirtatious attitude, so I just decided to let it all go. I blinked and looked at him innocently. Yes, is there a problem? I pointed to a certain position on my lower abdomen. It reached here at that time. Fusijo smiled and lowered his head to bite my lips. Is that so? He started his praising mode again. Yuan had a really good appetite that day. His fingertips slid to my lower abdomen and circled seductively. You'll do great today too, right? I blushed again, unconvincingly. My eyes were even burning hot. Stop seducing me all the time, Fusijo. His kiss had moved to the side of my neck, and his voice was getting lower and lower. Then do you like it? I couldn't control my breathing and let out a soft moan. I murmured in reply, I like it. The Siamese cat was locked in the bedroom by Fusijo. The sofa developed a function it didn't originally have. It endured everything it shouldn't have endured. That night, I was forced to say I like you countless times. 18. This time, I woke up in Fu Xizhou's arms. I turned around in his arms to face him, remembering our time together during this period and the subtle influence he had on me. Fu Xizhou is really good at this. If he wanted to, he could be more promiscuous than Duan Xiao and play more tricks, but he said, he only likes me. When I was in a daze, Fu Xizhou woke up. Our eyes met unexpectedly, and I only realized later. The progress bar named like Fu Xizhou had already loaded more than half without me realizing it. Fu Xizhou squinted his eyes slightly, tightened his arm and pulled me into his arms. He rubbed his face against the crook of my neck. He mumbled with a sleepy nasal voice, I love you, Song Yuan, I love you. The lower half of my face was also pressed against the side of his neck. It was a more intimate gesture than when we were passionately entangled, making me feel even more shy. I replied in a small voice, I know. The movement of Fu Xizhou holding me paused imperceptibly for a moment, then it returned to normal. Okay, he didn't ask me anything. 19. Since that day in the bar, Shining had always been beaming with joy. She looked like she was deeply in love, but by chance, on the way out of school with Fu Xizhou, we met her, who had just been crying. She blocked our way and her tone was hesitant. Senior, are you together with Song Yuan? Fu Xizhou smiled politely and asked back, what does it have to do with you? Shining forced a smile. I just want to remind you, Senior, you might not know what kind of person Song Yuan is at all. Don't be deceived by her. I immediately lost my temper. Yeah, you know me the best. You might as well change your name to Shen Huichong, exclusive version for Song Yuan. From now on, Shining became angry from embarrassment and growled. Song Yuan, shut up, Fu Xizhou interrupted her. Maintaining the last bit of his courtesy, compared to Song Yuan, I do know you better. Shining couldn't believe it. Senior, you mean? Fu Xizhou sized her up thoughtfully. A mistress, a home wrecker. He asked politely, which term would you prefer me to use to address you? Xin Ying's face turned pale and then red. In the end, the troublemaker left with a belly full of anger. It was really satisfying, that night, to reward Fu Xizhou. I tried to change from being passive to taking the initiative. Soon I found out that lying down was the most energy-saving position. I didn't take Shining seriously, but I didn't expect that she would dare to accuse me of dating two people at the same time in the school's super topic with her real name, and it became very popular. She presented the whole thing in the form of a video. The girl's eyes were red and she looked haggard. The title was, This is not about exposing someone. I just want to use the power of public opinion to make Senior Song Yuan realize the seriousness of the problem and stop destroying my relationship with my boyfriend. The whole video described how I had an ongoing connection with Duan Xiao while I was dating Fu Xizhou. As a result, her relationship with Duan Xiao broke down and Duan Xiao broke up with her. Yes, she didn't mention at all that she had interfered in my relationship with Duan Xiao. I closed my eyes, feeling a rush of anger. I hesitated for a long time before clicking on the comment section. I had already prepared myself to be scolded severely. However, top comment 1, my goodness, the mistress is crying out for injustice. Do you think we won't know about your interference just because you blurred the details of your relationship with Duan Xiao? Top comment 2, even without reading that Weibo post, I don't believe you, little sister. Ever since I learned that Senior Song Yuan caught a pervert with her bare hands, I've unconditionally become her fan. Top comment 3, I came from that Weibo post and specifically came here to scold you, you mistress. Top comment 4, oh right, to prevent the scumbag from hiding, I'm scolding both of you. You two are a disgusting couple. I've already reported that guy surnamed Duan. He won't be able to be the club president anymore. That Weibo post. I scrolled down further, and many people mentioned another Weibo post. It took about half a minute to find the link to that Weibo post. I clicked in and was shocked again. It was posted by Fu Xizhou with his real name. There was a narrative of about 3,000 words accompanied by a few pictures. It not only clearly and convincingly clarified that Duan Xiao had been pestering me persistently, but also firmly proved that Shining was the mistress. Most importantly, 2 minutes after Shining exposed me, Fu Xizhou followed up with a clarification post. 20. I immediately called Fu Xizhou. How did you guess that Shining was going to slander me and prepared these evidences in advance? He chuckled softly. He denied it, saying, I just took precautions based on her nature. I couldn't hold back my smile as I supported my cheek with my hand, but I still pretended to be reserved for a moment. You didn't have to prepare them in advance. The truth won't be buried anyway. In the end, Shining will definitely shoot herself in the foot. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone. then Fu Shizhou said, but I don't want to give them any chance to scold you. My mind went blank. I finally understood his intention. Only by clarifying the matter immediately could I be maximally protected from being cyberbullied due to misunderstandings. It was as if fireworks exploded in my mind, scattering my rationality. Only love bubbles were left. After hanging up the phone, I ran towards the club's meeting room to find Fu Shizhou, 21. When I arrived, I unexpectedly heard Duan Zhao's voice through the door. Fu Shizhou, you're so afraid of me. Fu Shizhou indulged him as if he were coaxing a fool. Whatever you say is fine. I saw the clarification Weibo post you sent. Duan Zhao didn't care about his perfunctory attitude. Instead, he was full of interest. You sent it so quickly. It's obvious that you had the evidence ready long ago. But why? He chuckled. Because you're afraid that I'll come out and clarify things. Through a narrow glass window, I saw the electronic pen in Fu Shizhou's hand drop to the ground. He didn't say a word. Duan Zhao's expression became even more arrogant. You're afraid that if I come out and clarify, I'll steal your credit, and then Yuan will be touched and get back together with me. If I'm not mistaken, Yuan hasn't said that she likes you yet, right? Fu Shizhou came to his senses and picked up the pen. There was no emotion visible on his face. Are you done? The door is over there. I won't see you out. Duan Zhao seemed not to have heard him. His tone was a mix of emotion and pride. I know her better than you. It's impossible for her to fall in love with you so quickly, even if she's with you. It's because you've slept together. It has to force it, Fu Shizhou. Let Yuan go. This overly confident guy. I found a basin in the storage room next door, went to the bathroom to fill it halfway with water, and then pushed the door open and went in. Yuan. Duan Zhao put away his arrogant expression and called my name nervously. I didn't look at Fu Shizhou immediately. Instead, I held the basin in front of Duan Zhao. Duan Zhao looked down at the basin. There was a hint of unexpected joy in his eyes and brows. I interrupted him, look down. Duan Zhao did as I said. Can you see clearly? I suddenly let go of the basin. The basin fell to the ground. Duan Zhao couldn't dodge in time and his pant legs got splashed wet. I thought your family was so poor that you couldn't afford a mirror, so I was kind enough to get you a basin of water so that you could see your true face. I was so angry that I launched a fierce attack. Why is it impossible for me to fall in love with Fu Shizhou so quickly? Do you mean that I have to mourn for you for a year before I can like someone else? He's better looking than you and more devoted. He's better than you in every way. Should I not cut my losses in time and go for a mutual relationship with him, but instead stay up late for you, listen to sad songs and write emotional essays? Duan Zhao pursed his lips and looked at me gloomily. Just because of that 3-minute kiss, you immediately abandoned me. Is that fair to me? So he doesn't understand human language. I took a deep breath to calm myself down. I forced a smile at Duan Zhao. If you think you've been treated unfairly, you can sue me. He was about to say something more when the club president appeared and interrupted his neurotic speech. The president's expression was serious. The matter between you and Shening has already caused a stir on the internet and has had a great impact on the school. The instructor will come to find you soon. The punishments for the two of you won't be light. Duan Zhao still stared at me stubbornly, as if he wanted to say something more. I held back the urge to gloat in his face and quickly dragged Fu Shizhou, who had been silent for a long time, away. 22. By the quiet and deserted lake. The cloudy weather made it easier to feel irritable today than usual. I had a solemn expression and was speechless as I faced Fu Shizhou. I was whether to explain first or confess my love first. But I heard his apology first. Part of the reason is indeed that I'm afraid you'll get back together with Duan Zhao, but my original intention was really to prevent you from being attacked by public opinion. I sighed. I held his face in my hands and our eyes met. Fu Shizhou, you don't have to be so cautious. Even if it's the first reason, you don't need to apologize, because I like you, and things like this just make me think you're cute. He paused, after a few seconds. He let out a soft laugh. It's actually half a year earlier, I hummed. Half a year of what? Fu Shizhou looked at the artificial lake, his eyes a bit distant. I was prepared for you to fall in love with me in half a year. Of course, I also thought that you might never fall in love with me, but I've always been optimistic. I thought that as long as I'm good enough to you, better than everyone else, at least you won't like someone else, he said softly. Maybe you'd be willing to stay with me. Fu Shizhou, who had always been called the favored one of heaven, could actually say such humble words with a calm face. The sadness outweighed the touch. I buried myself in his arms and sobbed softly. Fu Shizhou, are you a love-struck person? He hugged me back and gently rubbed the back of my head, his voice lazy. I'm in love with you. I hugged him a little tighter and corrected him with a slight nasal voice. No. You should put yourself first and not lose yourself. Fusijo raised his tone slightly and chuckled. Senior, can I borrow Senior Duan for 3 minutes? He said in a self-deprecating tone. If I could control it, I would have stopped liking you long ago. During the days when my relationship with Duan Xiao was flourishing and there were no cracks, Fusijo's secret love was always in the dark. It was an endless night that couldn't be seen the end of, from being unbearable to becoming numb. I don't know when the cumulus clouds dispersed, and the dappled light and shadow fell on his shoulders, I told him seriously, from now on, I'll be with you, even though our future is still uncertain and full of hardships and obstacles, I will still step onto this path with you without hesitation and spare no effort to overcome every obstacle. Fusijo smiled gently. Yes. He motioned for me to look at the sun that had broken through the last layer of clouds. Look, the sky is brightening up. Story 2. When the impoverished Shen Ming ordered me to give his little childhood sweetheart 30,000 yuan every month, otherwise he wouldn't accept my sponsorship, I knew he had also been reborn. In my previous life, I poured money and resources into making him the richest man in Asia, but he thought he was born to be a domineering CEO. He even condescendingly threatened me. I'm only giving you this one chance, miss it, and even if you kneel down and beg me, it won't work. I immediately stopped his card, bought him a bottle of sleeping pills, and let him be the richest man in his dreams every day. #1. During the big break, Gu Jingqing came to ask me for money, hugging his little childhood sweetheart. He slapped the note with the bank card number on the table and then ordered me, from now on, you transfer 30,000 yuan of living expenses to Warner's account every month. Suddenly, the people around cast strange glances. They probably had never seen such an arrogant impoverished student asking someone for money without even a word of explanation. I was so angry that I laughed. Why should I? He turned around, with an expression of how dare you question me, and sneered. It's just 30,000 yuan. Do you still need a reason? 30,000 yuan can't even buy one of my ties. He raised his chin and was about to fasten his tie, but what he was wearing wasn't some high-end custom-made suit, but a sweatshirt bought online for 500 yuan. Gu Jingqing had been President Gu for too long in his previous life and had actually forgotten that he used to be an impoverished student with less money in his pocket than on his face. In my previous life, I spent money and resources to forcefully make him the richest man in Asia. But he thought he was born to be President Gu. He was used to bossing around his subordinates on weekdays and always spoke to me in a tone of notice and command, but without me, what was he? 30,000 yuan for a tie. Are you daydreaming, Gu Jingqing? Before I sponsored you, you couldn't even afford a 10 yuan boxed meal. I coldly laughed and crumpled the note into a ball, casually throwing it into the trash can. Also, why should I give her living expenses? I'm not her mother. Gu Jingqing's face turned livid. Just as he was about to get angry, Song Shaowan, his little childhood sweetheart, blocked him protectively like a mother hen protecting her chicks. Su Ranran, how can you be so vicious? 30,000 yuan is nothing to you, but it's the living expenses for me and brother Gu for a month. Your family is so rich, helping us is only natural. Is it necessary to humiliate us like this? After saying that, she herself cried grievously, Brother Gu, even if my mother and I end up on the streets, I won't allow you to put down your dignity and beg her for my sake. Seeing the little childhood sweetheart who was bullied to tears by me, the vicious woman, Gu Jingqing was so that he quickly pulled her into his arms and comforted her softly. In the previous life, Song Shaowan donated a kidney to him. He thought that was true love and also regarded me as a stumbling block on the road of their relationship, but in fact, I paid a high price for that kidney. Song Shaowan raised the price at the last moment before the operation to extort me, which was why the two of them had a chance to meet again. Gu Jingqing embezzled public funds to buy her a villa, luxury cars, and pay off her mother's huge gambling debts. I endured it. I don't stop the reborn Gu Jingqing from rekindling his relationship with her, but he actually wants to continue spending my money to repay Song Shaowan for the kindness of a kidney. Why do I look like a big fool? I was so angry that I laughed instead. I took out my phone to notify the school to withdraw the sponsorship for Gu Jingqing. Unexpectedly, he took the initiative to say, Su Ranran, if you don't give her the money, then I don't want your sponsorship either. What kind of threatening tone is this? It seems that his acceptance of my sponsorship is a charity to me, and he also wants me to be grateful. I was really blind in my previous life. How could I like a pretentious man like him who has no destiny of being a domineering CEO but is full of the domineering CEO disease? I found the remittance records I gave him in the past 2 years and endured the nausea. Gu Jingqing, if you're a man with a bit of backbone, return the money you spent of mine, I'll give you a discount. It's a total of 800,000 yuan, 800,000 yuan, I'll pay you back 8 million yuan in 10 years, Gu Jingqing sneered disdainfully and continued to threaten me. However, Su Ranran, listen up, I'm only giving you this one chance, miss it, and even if you kneel down and beg me, it won't work. I racked my brains but couldn't figure out where his honeydew confidence came from. Could he really think that after he topped the Forbes rich list in 10 years, he could just move his fingers and make my family go bankrupt? It's ridiculous. Does he really think he became the richest man by his own strength? Little does he know that it was all because of my family that he was promoted, provide raw materials, technical support, and connections to a dog, and the dog could also become the richest man. Not only does he not feel grateful, but he also fantasizes that I have to fawn over him like those sycophants, looking at his sinister-looking face as if he was saying, if you don't fawn over me, I'll make you look good in 10 years. I rolled my eyes big time. I found someone to freeze his sponsorship card and wrote an IOU of 800,000 yuan. Gu Jingqing stamped his handprint stubbornly and viciously threw down a harsh word at me. Don't you ever regret it? Then hugged his childhood sweetheart and turned around to leave. I regret it. I regret raising this white-eyed wolf in my previous life. And I'm even more afraid that he'll go back on his word and come to pester me again. ###2. After school, I called the driver to pick me up. Just as I opened the car door, I was pushed hard from behind. I stumbled. If it weren't for a kind-hearted passer-by who helped me, I would have fallen heavily to the ground. Holding back my anger, I fixed my eyes and saw that it was Gu Jingqing. He was pushing the tearful Song Xiaowan into the car, and then he got in himself. The moment he closed the car door, he didn't forget to order me. Wanner's mother was beaten into the hospital by the debt collectors. The situation is not good. You take a taxi back. Then he turned around and ordered the driver, go to the hospital. The driver uncle looked at him like he was a fool, and without saying a word, took out his phone to call the police. Gu Jingqing angrily kicked the back of the passenger seat hard. If you delay Aunt Song's condition, you can't afford the consequences. The driver uncle calmly took pictures of his criminal evidence, then turned off the engine and got out of the car. Directly locking the two of them in the car, two lunatics suddenly broke into the car, damaged the leather seats, and scared my young lady. I've controlled the two of them. Please, police comrades, come out immediately. I burst out laughing and folded my arms, watching Gu Jingqing show off his domineering CEO air in the car. Sure enough, without me, he was nothing. Song Xiaowan was crying anxiously in the car, which made Gu Jingqing extremely. He took a deep breath and turned to look at me. Looking like a warrior sacrificing his dignity for love, Su Ranran, I can accept your sponsorship, but don't fantasize that I'll like you. I don't want Brother Gu to sacrifice so much for me. Song Xiaowan pointed at my nose and cursed. Su Ranran, you actually used such despicable means to force Brother Gu to be with you. Don't even think about it. I will never allow you to humiliate Brother Gu's dignity with money again. Stop talking, Wanner. For you, I'm willing to do anything. Me, does anyone care about my life? I just funded a poor student to repay society. What's wrong with me? Besides, I didn't like Gu Jingqing until 3 years later. Why do the two of them act like star-crossed lovers who have been separated? At this time, the police uncle came and directly invited the two of them out. Gu Jingqing's face was dark as he stared at me and asked, Su Ranran, what do you mean? Using this way to attract my attention, you're so childish. I gestured towards my head to the police uncle and whispered, they're mentally ill, it's recommended to send them to the hospital directly. Then, I smiled and told Gu Jingqing, it doesn't mean anything. I just asked the police uncle to send you two to the hospital. The police uncle looked at them suspiciously. Dressed shabbily but acting so arrogant and looking down on everyone, they really didn't seem normal. You two want to go to the hospital? Yes, the police uncle suddenly understood. Oh, then get in the car. I'll take you there. As for which hospital they were sent to, I have no idea. Just in the middle of the night when I woke up, seeing 56 missed calls and 99 plus WeChat messages from Gu Jingqing, I knew they didn't go to a proper hospital. half an hour ago. The last text message Gu Jingqing sent me was, "Answer my call within 3 minutes, or else bear the consequences." He was having another bout of domineering CEO disease again. I yawned and directly turned off my phone to sleep. ####3. The next day, during the school sports meeting, when I went to the cafeteria to carry water, I saw Gu Jingqing and Song Xiaowan having a meal. I heard that the two of them were locked up in the psychiatric department for a whole night. And finally the school came forward to bail them out. The monitor quietly came up to my ear and complained, "I thought they were quite normal before. How did they suddenly get sick?" Last night, Gu Jingqing called all the classmates in the class, saying that he was the future richest man. As long as they could gather 500 yuan to ransom him now, he would repay them 100 times in 10 years. This is even more overstep than the last time when the first emperor called to appoint me as a general in a telecom fraud. I sprayed out a mouthful of water directly, so there were more victims than I expected. Last night, my dad and all the managers in the company whose names I could remember received calls from Gu Jingqing. He said he had a cooperation project that was sure to make a fortune, as long as they could get him out of the psychiatric department. My dad was so scared that he held an emergency meeting with Panda Eyes in the morning, speculating whether a hacker had leaked the company's secrets. Otherwise, how could a lunatic call their internal phone numbers? This really can't be blamed on Gu Jingqing. He was an orphan since he was a child and had no relatives to rely on. He finally had a little childhood sweetheart, but her mother was a gambling addict. The two of them had no money at all. So of course they had to target the people around me. This life, I don't want to have any more dealings with them. I wanted to leave, but the monitor excitedly pulled me back, motioning for me to continue watching the show. Gu Jingqing was having another bout of illness again. He held a glass of orange juice in his hand and kept shaking it like he was shaking red wine, looking at the 15 yuan steak in front of him. A sarcastic arc appeared at the corner of his mouth. "This kind of trash also dares to be called food. Throw it on the ground, and even a dog won't eat it." Brother Gu, I know you look down on this kind of cheap stuff, but you've been hungry for a day. You should at least eat something. Gu Jingqing snorted coldly. "Even if I starve to death, this kind of trash doesn't deserve to enter my stomach." The cafeteria owner who was frying the steak had a hot temper. He chopped a knife on the chopping block. "You two used a coupon to order the cheapest steak here. It's okay to ask me to give an extra serving of spaghetti, but you're still being picky. Eat if you can, and get out if you can't. What kind of status do you have to talk to me like this? Believe it or not, I can make your store close down with just one phone call." Song Xiaowan anxiously tried to persuade him. "Brother Gu, don't be like this. Their small business is not easy either." The monitor, who had been watching the show the whole time, pinched his thigh hard, but still couldn't help laughing. This laugh didn't matter, and it successfully attracted Gu Jingqing's attention. The moment he looked at me, the hairs on his arms suddenly stood up. I didn't even have time to carry the mineral water. I turned around and ran, but unfortunately, I still didn't escape. I was blocked at the end of the corridor by Gu Jingqing, who was red-eyed and with his hands on his hips. Su ran. "You can't afford the price of angering me." I looked up at the sky speechlessly. What kind of sin had I committed to suffer this inhumane torture? "What? Are you jealous when you see me with Warner? You came up with this way to take revenge on me." Su ran. "This is all you're capable of. However, I advise you to save it and put away those little tricks to seduce me. I've already made a private engagement with Warner. It's absolutely impossible for me to be with you. Stay away from us two in the future. If I find out that you have any improper thoughts again, I won't let you go." I tried hard to recall how I fell in love with Gu Jingqing in my previous life. At that time, he wasn't the key person my family was cultivating. There were many people who were more outstanding and promising than him, but I just thought Gu Jingqing was different and extraordinary. Now I find that he's really not a normal person. I interrupted his confident speech and mercilessly exposed him. "You're really smart to use this way to skip the bill. Don't think I didn't notice that Gu Jingqing secretly stuffed several pieces of beef into his mouth. He staged such a big show because he didn't have the money to pay for the meal and didn't want to lose face. The cafeteria has a rule that poor students can wash dishes to offset the meal cost, but how could Gu Jingqing, who had been the richest man for a lifetime, lower his face to wash dishes in the back kitchen? Of course, he would push it all to Song Xiaowan to do, and I was just the best tool person for him to skip the bill. Gu Jingqing, whose thoughts were exposed by me, became angry from embarrassment and punched the wall behind me. I kindly reminded him, "There are surveillance cameras here. dare to touch a single hair of mine, and the money you owe me will double, in 10 years. Don't talk about 10 years. You won't even last 10 days before you starve to death. My naked sarcasm completely hurt Gu Jingqing's sensitive and fragile self-esteem. He let go of me and, in extreme anger, laughed instead. Then let's wait and see. ###4. The school sports meeting was undoubtedly the best opportunity for Gu Jingqing to turn things around. On this day, the school would invite business tycoons to visit. Every poor student would actively participate in the competitions. If they performed well, they would be selected to get the opportunity to be sponsored. Gu Jingqing was the long-distance running champion every year, and his academic performance was always in the top 3 in the school. Soon, he attracted the attention of a real estate tycoon. The head teacher immediately pulled Gu Jingqing over and praised him to the skies. "Mr. Li, this classmate Gu is a top-notch student who can definitely get into Tsinghua University. Sponsoring him is definitely the right choice." In the previous life, Gu Jingqing did get into Tsinghua University. But he wasn't a good student, but a disaster, the kind that whoever gets involved with him will have bad luck. Mr. Li nodded in satisfaction. "Not bad. From now on, our company will sponsor you 5,000 yuan per month until you graduate from university." 5,000 yuan. Gu Jingqing's face immediately fell. "Are you humiliating me with 5,000 yuan? Classmate, 5,000 yuan is not a small amount. It's enough for your daily expenses at school." He looked down his nose and sneered sarcastically. "The real estate industry is in decline and doesn't have much room for development in the future. I reluctantly accept your sponsorship, but you only give me 5,000 yuan. How can I form a team and do research in the future? I'm different from those poor students who just muddle along and stretch out their hands for money. In the future, I'm going to lead the team to the top of international technology. If you can't afford to sponsor me, then make way for others." After saying that, regardless of Mr. Li's face turning purplish with anger, he turned around and left. The head teacher was furious and called out to him, "Gu Jingqing." He turned around, with his hands in his pockets. "In the future, don't recommend companies in sunset industries like this to me. The people who sponsor me should at least have a net worth higher than Su Ranran's parents. I will review their qualifications one by one. Those who don't meet the standards have no right to sponsor me." His words made Mr. Li extremely angry. No matter how the principal and the head teacher apologized, he firmly refused to sponsor the poor students in our school anymore. This also directly implicated 2 other innocent classmates. The twin sisters who had grown up with their grandparents since childhood were so excited that they cried when they heard that a company was willing to sponsor them to go to college. But because of Gu Jingqing's actions, the opportunity was gone. And the 2 sisters squatted on the ground crying bitterly. I couldn't stand it anymore and stepped forward to comfort them. "It doesn't matter. Su's group is willing to sponsor you." Really, is 10,000 yuan per person per month enough? No, that's too much. 2,000 yuan for the 2 of us per month is enough. The 2 sisters knelt on the ground and kowtowed to me. "Thank you. My sister and I will definitely repay your great kindness after we graduate from college." Look, there are still grateful people in the world. After the school sports meeting, the class held a dinner party. As 2 penniless parasites, it was no surprise that they came to freeload. Gu Jingqing didn't pay a single cent but sat in the main seat, being picky about everything. The decoration was bad, the service was bad, and the dishes were bad. He might as well have written the word disdain on his face. The head teacher and the classmates were almost annoyed to death by them. During the day, Gu Jingqing not only angered an investor but also made our class lose 2 medals that we should have won. The reason was that Song Xiaowan fell while doing the long jump and scraped her knee. Gu Jingqing, who was still participating in the relay long-distance race, suddenly threw away the relay baton, picked up Song Xiaowan, and rushed into the infirmary. He even threatened the school doctor, "If you can't cure her, I'll hold you accountable." Seeing that we all ignored him, Gu Jingqing, who was used to being the center of attention, couldn't sit still. He poured the beer he had taken a sip of directly into the grilled fish plate in front of him, then tapped his fingers on the table and coldly asked, "Who chose this place? The taste is so bad." Gu Jingqing knew very well that this restaurant was owned by my family and was deliberately trying to make things difficult for me. The monitor couldn't stand it anymore and retorted, "Classmate Gu, we all think this place is very good. Do you have any dissatisfaction? Good, Gu Jingqing sneered. Have you ever seen a really good restaurant? It's a pity that you'll never get to see it in your life. Song Xiaowan also chimed in. Some people are just born with a poor and shabby fate. Brother Gu, don't argue with them. They'll never be able to catch up with you in their lives. One was bragging hard, and the other was flattering hard. The two of them were really a match made in heaven. I held down the monitor's hand, which was shaking with anger, and smiled. The future richest man surely doesn't need us poor people to chip in for the meal, right? Then, I'll trouble the richest man to pay the bill for today's class dinner. I put the bill in front of him, and Gu Jingqing took a look but didn't say anything. I immediately exclaimed, 3,000 yuan is nothing to classmate Gu, right? Not to mention 3,000 yuan. Gu Jingqing couldn't even find 30 yuan on him. He knew I was deliberately belittling him, but for the sake of his richest man face, he took the bill and went out, dragging Song Xiaowan beside him. When they came back, the heirloom jade pendant around Song Xiaowan's neck was gone. She glared at me viciously, as if I was the one who had sold her heirloom to show off. Just then, a group of uninvited guests burst into the party, ###5. Without saying a word, they grabbed Song Xiaowan and dragged her out, judging from their appearance and attire. They looked like hooligans, and they were swearing foully. Your mother owes us usury. If you don't pay it back today, don't blame us brothers for being rude. That's what my mother owes you. Go find her. I'm just a student. I don't have any money. Song Xiaowan's face turned pale with fright, and she tightly grabbed the table corner, refusing to let go. After all, they were classmates. Several boys in the class wanted to save her, but they were forced back by the hooligans brandishing knives. The leader of the hooligans waved Song Xiaowan's student ID in front of her and said that her mother had escaped from the hospital that morning. Before leaving, she left a letter saying that the daughter should pay off the mother's debt and that she was giving Song Xiaowan to them to pay off the debt. I suddenly remembered that in the previous life, Song Xiaowan sold her kidney and even blackmailed me. Presumably, she was also forced by her mother. However, a poor person must have something hateful about them. She should never have killed me in order to cling to Gu Jingqing. This big tree. Just as Song Xiaowan was being forcibly dragged away, she suddenly shouted, I have money, I have money. My boyfriend is the future richest man. He promised me that he would definitely pay off the debt for me. Future richest man. Seeing that the hooligans didn't believe it, she quickly assured them, really, my boyfriend will be very rich in the future. This little gambling debt is nothing to him. Look, he's here. Everyone followed Song Xiaowan's gaze. There was only a poor student in shabby clothes, whose whole outfit was worth less than 2,000 yuan. Coming out of the bathroom, he even boasted, her mother only owes you more than 1 million yuan, I'll pay it back for her. Then he turned around and borrowed a pen and paper from the waiter and skillfully wrote down his name, just like signing a check in the previous life. In 10 years, I'll pay you back 10 times the principal and interest. The hooligans laughed angrily and directly tore the IOU into pieces and threw them in Gu Jingqing's face. TSK TSK TSK. I felt embarrassed for him at this scene, seeing that the hooligans didn't appreciate it. Gu Jingqing singled me out from the onlookers. Su Ran, pay off this money for her, and I'll consider being your boyfriend. Me, I can let you have my person, but my heart will always belong to Warner. Brother Gu, don't. Gu Jingqing closed his eyes, as if determined to sacrifice himself, and grabbed my shoulders, about to force a kiss. I instinctively slapped him, endured the nausea, and cursed. Are you crazy? When did I say I liked you? Gu Jingqing turned his head, poked his swollen left cheek with his tongue, and sneered, pretend all you want. In the previous life, you were crazy about me. Please, when you were reborn, bring some brains with you. Okay, in the previous life, I did like you, but that was also 3 years later. Now, I don't know you well. Don't come looking for a beating. Sure enough, you also have memories of the previous life. Gu Jingqing wasn't the least bit surprised. After all, the three of us died together in the previous life. Since both he and Song Xiaowan were reborn, there was no reason for me to be an exception. That's great. No need for me to prove anything. If you obediently take out the money, in 10 years, I'll ensure the safety of your family. Otherwise, you know what the consequences of angering me are. Gu Jingqing had always been vengeful. The first thing he did after becoming the richest man was to get rid of those who had bullied him. But don't forget, without me, you can't become the richest man in this life. Oh, really? ###6. I rolled my eyes helplessly, afraid of getting into trouble. I turned around and quickly fled the scene. Gu Jingqing was still chasing after me, threatening. Su ran. I promise you will pay a heavy price for your wrong decision today. Later. I heard the story of what happened after I left that day from the monitor. In order to get away, Gu Jingqing told the debt collectors that he had a connection with their boss. In the previous life, their boss had fawned over him to make money, but unfortunately, he didn't take a fancy to him. In this life, as long as they showed him some face and wiped out the debt, in 10 years, he would surely lead them to do business and make a fortune. As a result, they thought he was crazy and directly beat him up. If the monitor hadn't secretly called the police, the two of them would have been thrown into the Huangpu River to feed the fish. The monitor directed the classmates to move Gu Jingqing and Song Xiaowan's desks out. He said, these two dropped out of school. They said they were going to start a business and make a fortune. I knew about this. A few days ago, Gu Jingqing sent me a WeChat message to provoke me, saying that he would soon make me lose everything and asking me if I regretted it in the previous life. If you hadn't brought people to catch us cheating and had turned a blind eye to Wanner's existence, maybe you could have always been the richest man's wife. It's a pity that you just couldn't tolerate her. I replied to him, who do you think you are? You still want to keep a mistress outside, do you deserve it? Now it seems that Wanner is indeed more suitable to be the richest man's wife than you. Get lost, you gigolo. In the previous life, I knew that Gu Jingqing secretly embezzled public funds to buy a luxury house. Deserve it. Now it seems that Wanner is indeed more suitable to be the richest man's wife than you. Get lost, you gigolo. In the previous life, I knew that Gu Jingqing secretly embezzled public funds to buy a luxury house and cars for Song Xiaowan and that the two of them plotted to kill me. I endured it to find the evidence to make him leave the house penniless. After I firmly held the real power, I went to expose the true features of this adulterous couple. At that time, Song Xiaowan was already 6 months pregnant and was racking her brains to force me out. Seeing me come to catch them cheating, she was still looking smug. But when the lawyer announced that Gu Jingqing wouldn't get a single cent, Song Xiaowan couldn't sit still. She secretly turned on the gas in the kitchen and, taking me by surprise, pushed me in, trying to silence me. At the moment before the gas explosion, I dragged the two of them in with me, one in each hand. With their 3 lives as my companions in death, no matter how you calculate it, I didn't lose. In this life, I didn't want to have any more dealings with them. But since Gu Jingqing insisted on tearing his face off with me, there was nothing I could do. 3 days later, I went to the business incubation base with my father and saw Gu Jingqing. He dropped out of school and settled here, wanting to replicate the path to success in the previous life. But how could it be that easy? Which company would trust a high school dropout? In the previous life, he had a Tsinghua University degree and my recommendation. He could stand on the podium and tell those busy CEOs his ideas. But in this life, he didn't even have the qualification to enter the door. He even sneaked in by bribing the security guard. Gu Jingqing was extremely proud when he saw me and deliberately hid his business plan behind his back. I won't cooperate with Su's group, no matter who I cooperate with. Su ran. Give up. Is it possible that I'm here to invest in someone else? I'm not interested in him at all. #7. In fact, in the previous life, my father valued my senior, Su Yi, the most. He was also a top-notch graduate from Tsinghua University. He was low-key, reliable in handling things, and much more mature in thinking than Gu Jingqing. My father intended to match us up and cultivate him to be the successor. Unfortunately, in the previous life, the person I liked wasn't him. Sui could only reluctantly become the vice president of the group. It can be said that Gu Jingqing was only the richest man in name, while the real person in power of the group was Sui. Because of me, he had been wronged for too long. In this life, I will return the glory that belongs to him. After just half an hour of his speech, my father decided to invest in him. After the event, Sui specifically found me to thank me. I heard that it was your strong recommendation that convinced Chairman Su to come and listen to my speech in person. Thank you. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid I wouldn't have had such a good opportunity. I waved my hand in shame. Actually, I didn't do much. It's just that you're excellent yourself. In the previous life, in order to help Gu Jingqing, I took away this opportunity for Sui to shine. It made him waste several years in an ordinary position. Fortunately, he was hard-working and enterprising enough to seize another opportunity. Otherwise, I would have been guilty. This time, I returned the opportunity to him, and Sui quickly made great progress in his career and became my father's right-hand man. I also successfully got into Tsinghua University and entered Suyi's research team. Later, Song Xiaowan specifically came to the school to find me and showed off in front of me. Brother Gu has already secured investment. Although 5 million yuan is a bit less, this is just the first step for him to become the richest man. I believe that in less than 10 years, he will return to his original position. Then she looked at me contemptuously and said, "You were the richest man's wife for so long. In this life, it's my turn to enjoy the blessings. Don't worry, this blessing is all yours." Before Gu Jingqing could show off in front of me in person, bad news came. Gu Jingqing was cheated. They just gave him a little sweetener, and then they cheated him out of everything. His patent was bought for 1 yuan. His core business ideas were plagiarized, and even the original website he finally set up was attacked and gone. After several consecutive business failures, Gu Jingqing couldn't sit still. He came to the school to block me. "Su Ranran, was it you who did this? Are you afraid that I'll succeed in my business and that I'll take revenge on you?" I blinked, looking innocent. Senior Sui stood in front of me and kindly reminded him, "Are you classmate Gu? I've heard about you. Your business ideas and concepts are correct, but the world is full of dangers. You should be more careful in the future." "Is it your turn to speak, Sui? In the previous life, you were just a dog working for me. Who are you pretending to be? Get out of the way." Gu Jingqing always thought that becoming the richest man was all his own credit and had nothing to do with me or Sui, but he was wrong. Without the two of us, the position of the richest man would never have fallen to him. Sui grabbed his hand forcefully, not allowing him to get close to me. Under the gold-rimmed glasses, Suyi's dark eyes were filled with cold, sharp glints. "Come to trouble Ranran again, and don't blame me for being rude to you." Then he personally escorted him out of the school. ###8. In the previous life, with my protection, Gu Jingqing's business path was too smooth. It made him forget how cold and dark the world was. Even though he had memories of the previous life and a vision for future emerging industries, it wasn't easy for him to succeed in starting a business. Well, he was cheated again. Driven by eagerness for quick success and greed for profit, Gu Jingqing successfully fell into a fraud group. The monitor noticed something was wrong and kindly called the police for him. 3 months later, Gu Jingqing was bailed out. That day, the police called me and asked me to cooperate with them in the investigation. The police uncle asked me what messages Gu Jingqing had sent me in the past few months. I honestly opened the chat records for them to see. "Su Ranran, for the sake of our past feelings, as long as you transfer 500,000 yuan to me, I'll forgive you without holding a grudge. Su Ranran, I'm only 300,000 yuan short of a successful business start-up. I promise I won't take revenge on you when I become the richest man. Su Ranran, transfer 100,000 yuan to me, and I'll immediately make you the vice president. Su Ranran, transfer 50,000 yuan to me." The police uncle was trying very hard not to laugh. I also felt very speechless. Just as I was about to leave, the police told me that Gu Jingqing was involved in fraud and might go to jail, and he wanted to see me. I didn't want to go, but the police persuaded me that Gu Jingqing was very stubborn. Only if I went would he truthfully report all the facts. To save more people who were deceived by telecom fraud, I went. Gu Jingqing no longer had his former arrogance and high profile. He just sat silently on the chair, his hands handcuffed. When he saw me, it took him a long time to calm down his emotions. He said, "Ranran, I'm sorry." I asked him questions as the police asked. "When you first entered the fraud group, didn't you notice anything wrong?" He smiled bitterly. "From the first day I entered, I knew there was something wrong with this place, but I didn't want to admit that the once richest man had actually fallen to such a state. Ranran, now I finally realize that I'm a useless person who can do nothing. Without you, I'm nothing. But I also have my self-esteem." I didn't want to admit it, and I was even more afraid that if I admitted it, I would really never be able to stand up again. I tried my best to prove myself and make achievements to show you. But it turned out that I'm really a waste. Ranran, actually, I early realized that the person I love is you, but in the previous life, no matter how high I climbed, you never admired me. It seemed that everything was within your plan. I'm a man, I need to be admired by a woman. Song Xiaowan is better at being a woman than you. She likes me and holds me up high. I really enjoyed the way she looked up to me. That's all. On that day, when you brought people to break into the house where Song Xiaowan and I were, my first reaction was to save you. As long as you forgave me and pretended that nothing had happened, we could still live a happy life. But you just wanted to divorce me and make me leave the house penniless. That gas explosion was Song Xiaowan's own will. I never wanted to hurt you, never. After realizing that I was reborn, I didn't deliberately get so close to Song Xiaowan, it's just, I was angry with you. After all, if you really loved me, you wouldn't have dragged me to death at the last moment. I picked my ears and asked him if he had finished. If so, I was leaving. Senior Sui had a new project that was short of people, and I couldn't stay outside for too long, especially not waste time listening to others talk nonsense. At this time, Song Xiaowan suddenly appeared from nowhere. She pushed me away forcefully, and with tears all over her face, she roared at Gu Jingqing. You actually lied to me. I'm your savior in the previous life. Without my kidney, you would have died long ago. You promised to be with me for a lifetime and make a fortune to pay off my mother's gambling debts, but you took the real estate certificate left to me by my father and disappeared. Where's the money? Give me back the money, you liar. Savior, I paid for that kidney. You were going to sell it to someone anyway. It just so happened that you sold it to me, in the previous life. I bought you luxury houses, luxury cars, and took you traveling. You weren't satisfied. You even wanted to be the richest man's wife. You killed Ranran and me. In this life, you made me drop out of school early. If it weren't for you egging me on, I wouldn't have entered this fraud company at all. Now that I'm going to jail, you won't have a good time either. Police, police, I want to report that this vicious woman, Song Xiaowan, is also a member of the fraud group. She sent me in. Shut up, you gigolo. After flattering you a few times, you really think you're the richest man. Looking at your pretentious appearance of acting rich when you're broke, I'm so disgusted that I want to vomit. I warn you, if you don't return the real estate certificate and the heirloom jade pendant to me, I'll make sure you stay in jail forever. Police, I want to report. The amount of Gu Jingqing's crimes is more than that. I hadn't had enough of watching this dog-eat-dog show when Song Xiaowan rushed out to report to the police, for fear that if she was a second late, Gu Jingqing wouldn't be able to sit through the prison term. Gu Jingqing looked at me eagerly and begged me, Ranran, for the sake of our past life as husband and wife, can you help me? I know that as long as you take action, I can spend a few years less in prison. Do you know how many families will be torn apart by telecom fraud? Gu Jingqing, you deserve all of this. Go and receive reform in prison. ####9. Gu Jingqing's judgment was handed down, and he was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Since that day, Song Xiaowan had disappeared. It was said that one day, she went to the police in a battered state to report that her gambling-addicted mother had sold her to a rich old man with special hobbies as a pet. She couldn't take it anymore and begged the police to save her. At first, the police would go out to check, but the old man took out their marriage certificate and the testimony of Song Xiaowan's mother in court. In the end, it was determined as a family conflict and the case was closed. Later, there was no news of Song Xiaowan anymore. The day Gu Jingqing was released from prison happened to be our class reunion. He came, but he didn't show up. He just stood in the distance, took a look at me, and then turned around and fled. After 3 years in prison, he no longer had the look of his former self. He was emaciated, with sunken eyes. He was wearing a washed-out sweatshirt and wrapped his whole head in a hat. When a passer-by walked by, he would subconsciously step aside. I saw him through the window. He was staring fixedly at Sui beside me. His eyes were filled with envy, jealousy, and unwillingness, because at this time, Sui had already become the richest man in Asia. In the previous life, it took Gu Jingqing 10 years to reach the position of the richest man, while Sui only took 3 short years. Although he had the help of my family, he was also hard-working and enterprising. My father had intended to match us up, but I really only regarded him as a brother. Sui didn't force me. Instead, he respected my wishes and doted on me. The twin sisters I had sponsored in the past had also become my most powerful assistants. Although they graduated from an ordinary second-tier university, they were diligent, studious, and grateful. They not only brought the grandparents who had raised them to live in the city but also refused offers from major famous enterprises for my sake. I believe that one day, with their help, I will build my own business empire step by step.